Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
The internet is full of half-truths and all-out lies. We've all seen them, and many people on social media complaining about it. Here's your chance to show and prove. WorldAfropedia.com is a black-owned and operated encyclopedia. There are several thousand articles, but we need help. We can't uncover all the truth ourselves. So please, join us and become a writer, editor, or blogger for WorldAfropedia.com today. Every little bit counts. We owe it to the future generations to put the truth out there. Visit WorldAfropedia.com, the African-centered encyclopedia, a global database of African knowledge for the purpose of bringing about global African wisdom and understanding. WorldAfropedia.com.
You also accused our listeners and or me of abusing, quote unquote. Guest, do you know of anyone who has been harmed as a result of being on this program?
No. Verbal abuse is considered harmful over time, right? I mean, do you believe that there's no such thing as verbal abuse?
Do you have any evidence that anyone has been harmed as a result of being on this program?
Do you believe there's such a thing as verbal abuse?
I asked my question first. I think the general protocol is person who asks the question, they should get an answer before the next question is asked. So my question was asked first. Do you have any evidence that anyone who's been a guest on this program has been harmed?
No,
okay.
Not at all.
Okay, that sounds like a false charge to me to say that myself or the
guest
have been abusive.
You can be verbally abusive without the person allowing themselves to feel abused. I don't know how those people felt when they got off your show. I do feel that your callers have been verbally abusive, but I have not been harmed by that. No, I haven't. 3 years ago, it would have crushed me. Oh, black people don't like me. It would have killed me. But my husband has helped me understand that there are always going to be some black people, but there's nothing I can do. Nothing. I could kill myself and you wouldn't be happy. So I'm cool. Y'all don't like me. I get it. Y'all think I'm misguided. I get it. Y'all think I'm fascinating. Okay, cool. Fine. I'm okay with that. I'm trying.
It doesn't sound
I think that I'm trying as hard as I can. Please tell me how to do better.
What exactly, if you could pinpoint, what exactly was said that you would classify as abusive that you heard today from myself or anyone who participated?
No, not from you.
Anybody,
just what?
Give me something specific.
I don't know. I'll have to listen to it. I just at the time.
That's
funny to you, but it was the woman who was right before. It's not the man who just called, but the woman before him. I don't even know what she was saying, but people don't believe me, and people that I'm the epitome of racism, and the things that I'm saying are just so obviously, oh my God, clearly she's I don't even know what y'all are talking. Whatever. I'm trying. Tell me how to do better.
Show compassion.
Like, if Gus doesn't like any white people and he likes me, oh my gosh, I would have really, really done something. So there's some sick part of me that wants you and your viewers to like me, but yet I look down on somebody who tells me I'm brave on Facebook. I'm like, oh God, they're just so not conscious enough. So, yeah, it's real twisted.
One in a million chance of a lifetime, and life show compassion and send to me a stroke of love. in a million.
Shout out to Larry Graham. Context of White Supremacy, Gus T Renegade, in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Tuesday, July 11th, 2017. So I have been told. Thanks to Minnie B. Hooked us up, got a few things from my wish list. Minnie B, Tenny B now. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Other folks, lots of listeners all over the world have got tons of things from our wish list over the years that we have been broadcasting. Much obliged. It is on Amazon.com under Gus T Renegade. I posted it on my Facebook just within the last few hours. Should be on the top of the page if anybody wants to invest in the cows by nabbing something from the wish list. Gus T Renegade. Much obliged. Our broadcast for today. We have broadcasted for 8.5 years. The archives are extensive. I know we have some listeners who are more recent, people who started listening just in this calendar year or the last year or so. I think myself and even some of our listeners have encouraged folks. You might want to check out the archives. Interesting listening material. A lot of people from all over the world have been guests on the program to share their views or talk about books, films, projects, what have you, on how to go about solving this problem. One of those guests back in 2014, I think, was memorable for a number of reasons. She was on the program. We discussed her book, The Wheat Money. I think people came to know about the book. I think, in fact, a listener suggested that I have her as a guest on the program because I think it was several listeners. They saw it was a Facebook video of our guest, and it was like her whole family, her husband, her daughter. I think they, like many, had made the trek down to Ferguson, Missouri, right after Michael Brown Jr. was shot and killed by the enforcement official down there in that summer of 2014. And she just did kind of a sidewalk interview where she was talking about how that shooting related to the system of white supremacy. She talked about Michelle Alexander's book and the new Jim Crow. She talked about her own book, The Wheat Money, and just her views on racism and why she and her family came down to, I don't know, witness, observe, offer their views or what have you on what was going on. We had her on the program. She stayed for 3 hours. We had we had an interesting exchange for those 3 hours. Listeners got a lot of great questions. You heard a short snippet in the introduction to today's broadcast. She actually made a second visit to the program on Thanksgiving Day of 2014. We continued the dialogue. A lot of listeners were able to ask different questions and what have you. Had not conversed with her. She hasn't been back on the program for almost 3 years. She drops an email and asks, what's been going on, and she'd be interested to coming back and speaking with us once again. I will tell listeners, for one, you should be suspicious of whites, period. Doesn't matter what's going on, what the circumstances, just anyone who is classified, identifies as white, suspicions should already be there. A white person who is engaged in sexual intercourse with a non-white person, oh man, suspicion has been removed. That is a maximum act of racist aggression. I guess she is married to a black male and they do have a child together. A white person who's going to be a guest on this program and who has listened to the archives and says, yeah, I go back and do my homework and I've listened to some of the previous broadcasts and picking out, guests that we've had, Tim Wise, and programs that they've listened to. I'm even more suspicious then, and particularly when we have white people that are repeat guests. I've said before, you should pay attention to see how their presentation changes once they've been on the program multiple times, what have you, coming back. You should pay attention to that. And finally, you should certainly be mindful, this particular white person reaching out to initiate correspondence about returning to the broadcast. All of that should be kept in mind. If we have any newer listeners, folks who heard her previous visits, should be prepared. You should be highly vigilant and listening closely. Our guest for the evening Miss Krystl Tyler. Miss Tyler, so I can pick out which line you're on. If you could press *6, that would be super appreciated. That way I can distinguish you from the rest of the callers. *61, actually. So I'll know which line you're on. Let's see. Nope, still not seeing you. *61, Krystl Tyler. That way I can pick out, because I don't see your name on the line. *61, so I'll know which one is you. She said she's on the line, but I'm not seeing your name is not showing up. *61, Krystl Tyler, or you can email if that's too difficult. You can email me your number. That way I can just pick it out from the switchboard. Either one would work, because I'm not seeing your name. Normally I'll just look for the guest name, but I'm not seeing your name on the switchboard. While we are waiting to pick out which one Miss Tyler is on the board here, listeners will be here for Workplace Racism on Thursday. We'll be here for Gil Scott-Heron on Friday. Normal time for both programs, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And for the program today, I think, Gus T, I was hooked up. I got a gift certificate to get a private spa visit. So I think I'm going to use that tomorrow. So we should be able to work hard today. We should be able to, as long as Miss Tyler. So there we go. Do we have Miss Tyler on the line? Is that you?
Hello.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Krystl Tyler joining us live, author of The Wheat Money. Thank you for sharing a bit of your Tuesday evening once again. I guess before we get started, any of our listeners, I'm sure we have some folks who probably did not hear your first two visits on the program, so this might be their first time hearing from you. Any information you think folks should know about who you are, the work that you do before we get started?
Sure. I wrote a book. I'm not an author. I'm not a college professor who studies race relations. I'm just a person who felt like the disparity between my husband's black ancestors and my white ancestors was too astounding not to be codified. And so I wrote the book. Really, I was writing it kind of just to get rid of some guilt for myself, but for my daughter to have the history. And then I just didn't stop writing. And then people were asking me and reading it. And so finally I thought, well, I know how to lay out a book. I could lay it out, like do the cover and the binding and all that. And so I never even sought an agent or a publisher. And I had no marketing budget. Really, most of my books sell because word of mouth, and a lot sell because of that video that Toya took of me on the corner where Mike Brown was killed. She and I were talking about something, and I said something about the new Jim Crow, and she said, would you say that on and let me put it on my phone? And I said, absolutely. And I did go back and listen to the other broadcasts of me. Actually, I was looking at some accounts that I have to see if I had anybody watching anything, and your broadcast came up on YouTube as a suggested, like a recommendation for me, and I was like, oh, this is me, and I can't really sleep, so let me just turn this on. So I started listening through it, and there were things in there that, because I did listen to it right after we did those interviews, but there were so many things I had forgotten that we had discussed and ways that I had behaved. So I did hear the intro about how you should be suspicious of people who want to return, or how maybe the impression that I get is that you're saying maybe we have these deceptive performances, and maybe after listening, we get better at deceiving you. Maybe. I don't know what's going on with that. But I did not reach out to you and ask to be on the show. I commented well, anyway. So anyway, that's my intro.
Okay. You did initiate contact, yes?
I wrote, and see, I wouldn't have even brought this up, but you said it was a reason to be suspicious, even more.
Well, wait a minute. We didn't
suspicious
get
of me.
an answer to a question, and that was something you did last time. I am going to the spa tomorrow, so I have max patience today. But this is something that you do a lot of. You do a lot of talking without answering questions. Man, I went back and listened to those interviews. Out of 1,500 interviews, like you can pick random and just go through and listen. Boy, I would submit that Hall of Fame work, Gus T Renegade, for the first broadcast when she was there. You do a lot of talking and just not answering questions. So if you can be as concise, just answer the question. Did you initiate contact about, okay, that's all we needed. That's all we needed. Now, you were talking about the book, The Wheat Money. We have some listeners. They are newer listeners, so they missed out. When you were here before, you said that you didn't want black people paying for your book. You said you wanted white people to pay for it, and if black people want to read your book, great, you would give it to them. Is it possible that you can get me like a link or something? Because there were people who would like to read your book. Is that still possible?
It might take me a day. I don't think I can do it within this broadcast. If I remember correctly, last time, the only thing I really had was a PDF, and it was huge because it had, but so the answer is yes.
Okay, but it might take some time.
Yes,
okay. If you can, like, within the next 24 hours maybe, or this week, if you can maybe send it to me, that would be great. There are listeners who asked in advance if they could get a copy they would like to read. Are there any listeners from the last two times that you were on the program? Because I know folks who asked then, they wanted the book, they read it. Did you get any feedback from people who either heard you on the program or read your book and wanted to send you a word or two about what they thought?
No.
Okay. Maybe you...
Nobody ever reached out.
Okay. We'll see if any of the folks tune in today. One of the things I did want to, or two things that I wanted to start with. Number one, Krystl Tyler, there should be a lot of suspicion for many reasons about, hey, I think this is most likely just a white woman practicing racism, white supremacy. That's Mac's agenda with whatever she's involved in, even coming here to speak to us today. The last time that she was with us, Thanksgiving Day, November 2014, she was in a residence with another non-white person, younger non-white person, who, if you want the context, so at the end of 2014, this was like right around the time when Tamir Rice was shot and killed. There was no indictment for Michael Brown Jr. There's about to be no indictment for Eric Garner. This is all the stuff that was happening at the end of that year. So it was a non-white person that was in the residence with her who was saying, I'd like to talk about racism. She was a guest on our program. Literally, this person's there. She's on the phone talking to us. And I said, well, wow, you should, tell them to listen to the program. And she makes up all these excuses and justifications for not sharing the program with this non-white person. That amongst many. I almost feel like it's a grab bag. You can just stick your hand in at random and pick out behaviors, things that you've done, said in the time that you've been on the program, and even from your book. Yes, this is someone whose primary objective, above and beyond anything she might write, say, or do, is dedication to the system of white supremacy. And I think some of the callers, that was the same conclusion that they came in. Just I want to add that for context, because that's the last time that I talked with her. So that was the last impression on my mind. And remembering that, I said, oh yeah, we're going to make sure we start with that today. A non-white person that you had easy access to, that you could have just said, hey, you can listen to me talk to these people right now about racism. And she wouldn't even do that. The other thing I wanted to make sure I got, hang on one second and I'll let you respond to both of them. When we were here before, I asked you my definition of racism like I do all of our guests, and you said, no, I don't agree. No problem. However, you didn't even have a definition of racism on your own. After you said you've spent most of your life reading about racism, you wrote a book about racism, where you said you read over 20 books to compel your work. You went all the way to Ferguson about Michael Brown, and you or at that time, 2014, September, you did not have I don't agree with your assessment, your definition of racism. This is mine. You didn't even have that. Do you have that now?
Not really, no, but I do have some thoughts on your definition.
We heard those before. Did you want to get the first thoughts in terms of you being suspicious, you not sharing with the non-white person who was in the residence with you?
Yes. So, it's Thanksgiving. I go to my family's house. they have made it clear to me that they do not want any talk of racism. Nobody likes to talk about racism, Krystl. Don't tell us about the book Slavery by Another Name, about how people were literally worked to death, how their dead bodies were left on the side of the mine shaft to rot. Like, they don't want to hear it because they didn't do it, and so the person who wanted to talk to me is my nephew. I have had many, many conversations with him about racism in America, and we had a falling out because he's mixed race, but he is lighter than me. And we had a falling out because when he reached high school, he began to say that he did not date black girls, only white girls, and that he had a name for the black girls in his school that had something, I cannot remember what it is, but it was something to do with poop. And I was so enraged about that, and I said, I cannot believe this. I cannot believe that you would do this. Oh, I don't say it to their face. Do you understand how crushing that would be if one of those girls found out?
More concise, because all
right, I'm trying. Okay. So then I say, well, I don't think your father would agree with this, and I'm going to call him. So I call the dad, and he accuses me of telling him how to parent. And so there was no racial talk between me and my niece and nephew and their parents a year. He went off to college, my nephew. He came back. He said, what is going on with this Michael Brown thing? I know that you went to Ferguson. And I said, oh, if you want to talk about Ferguson, I would love to. And he said, I can't right now. I need to go to my girlfriend's grandmother's house, but when I come back. So in your show, you're suggesting that he should come into the room with me? Nobody could hear me. I had gone into my dad's little office room. No one was listening to me. I was doing my job, I felt. And you said, oh, you should bring him in. Well, I don't think hearing one side of a conversation that is really only me talking, he's had to listen to me talking about racism his entire life. Hearing a one-sided...
Can we get to, or actually, I heard your commentary about why you didn't agree with my definition of racism. You presented that the first time on, so we got all that on record. I would just tell listeners, the portion about her nephew, we talked about that in 2014. All of this is new. She had totally different reasons at that time for why she would not tell him. Hey, hang on. This is archived. Okay. This is not a matter of dispute. People can go back and listen. Did we talk about this? And did she give a reason for not sharing with her nephew at that time? And if so, is it the same reason you heard today? And I'm saying, no, it's not. Moving forward. Other things I wanted to make sure. Hang on. The interrupting is not acceptable either. I'm going to let you talk, provided you don't, do a lot of straying and talking about things that are not related to the question being posed. But, can't do interrupting. Moving forward. I definitely wanted to make sure I address, this is really, really important. This is one of the few times where I think Krystl Tyler might have been telling the truth. This seems logical to me, and this is a major problem that I point out. You said people saw that video that it was a non-white female, right, who recorded you and your family when you all were down in Ferguson in 2014?
Yes, that's right.
Right on.
Yes.
You said that people saw that, millions got all these views on Facebook. Tons of our people, that's how we found out about you. Some of our listeners saw it. Black people in particular, you said a lot of black people saw that and were like, oh my God, that is the coolest white sister. She is so brave. She is so courageous. Wow, she is getting out there and telling it like it is. And there's so many clown, cowardly black people who won't even do that. And you said, man, it is not brave. It's not brave at all. And I think that's really important just to make sure that gets emphasized, particularly for non-white people who might be a little bit more confused and think, oh yeah, Krystl Tyler, she has to be super brave and courageous to do that. That is not true at all. Can you speak to that truthfully?
Sure. It's kind of cringy when people act like I did something so amazing. All I did was tell the truth, a truth that I happen to be ashamed of. Yeah, there are more convenient things I could have done than write this book. But to call it brave, especially while I stood on the street where Michael Brown laid for 4 hours dead while nobody did anything, I think I'm so far from brave. So far. I think to be a black person in America and to walk outside every day is braver than anything I've ever done.
Wow. I would say that right there, in my view, honest assessment, Krystl Tyler, not brave. If anything, it should be, I suspect that this white woman is practicing white supremacy, not that she's brave. Total different perspective on how we're viewing this. I did have specific questions because I'm so curious. At first, I was not thinking about it, but then when I took more time and I said, wow, I am so interested to hear what has been happening with your daughter over this time period and how the parenting has gone and everything, because that's a huge aspect of racism, white supremacy right there. So I do have some major questions about what's been going down with Leah. And I'm sure listeners have some questions. I'm sure we have some people who got to question you back in 2014 and are looking forward to getting an update to some of your responses. I do have a compensatory investment request. You said on the program before that you are about trying to redistribute wealth and what have you and looking for ways that you can do that. It would be super advantageous for me to have a cell phone. I feel like this is like asking for peanuts from a white person who says, hey, I'm, pretty well off. I'm not a Rockefeller, but I'm okay. I feel like it's pretty easy request. If you could not just get the mobile phone, but the plan as well for as long as the C.O.W.S is on air, that way I can use it for business. This seems like something Ms. Tyler could easily take care of. Could I make a compensatory investment request for the same phone that you have, whatever mobile phone you have, phone plan for as long as the C.O.W.S is on air? Is that something that you can take care of?
We will have to discuss that further. I have to give you an update on our lives.
An update
we will
on
have
your
to discuss
lives.
that further. I'm not saying no, but I need to get a few things out of the way first. We are behind on a couple of things. So, do you want to talk to these people for a second?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yes? Well, Leah is interested in speaking with you. So that's exciting. She's 11 years old now.
I'm eager to speak with her. I do want listeners to note that should be anytime when you ask a question or if you make a request for something constructive and things end up deviating from that to something else, even if it's something else that you are interested in, it should be, wait a minute, there's a process. It was one at a time. So compensatory investment request. I didn't get a yes. You said you weren't saying no. You have, I guess, a few financial...
Here's why. We do, but we will get wheat money in February of next year. And when we get the wheat money, that is when we tend to be able to help other people. Right? What we have done in the meantime since we last spoke, I was working a pretty high-paying job, and we just decided that there were going on with Denver's economy that were just too much. So we just basically just left town. We now live in the same town as where my wheat land is. It is a town of 300. We live in a trailer. So, trailer-ass white people. We live in a trailer that was built in like 1972. Well, no, that's our RV. And the only vehicle we have is a 1987 RV. It costs way too much to drive anywhere. So right now, I have only been working about 20 hours a week teaching teaching English to kids in China. So things are not that rosy. If you want to hit me up, I could definitely, and we only have one cell phone, and it is, we share it, my husband and I, and I'm calling you on a Google line because we had the phone cut off for non-payment, but we're going to get it back turned on. So I think I could make a commitment to you when it is closer to the time that I get my wheat money, because right now we're just paycheck to paycheck.
And that's February
especially right now.
of 2018?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
will put
know.
that
It's
on my
very good.
calendar. I will put that on my calendar for February
Let's do
2018. In
it.
fact, January 2018 to make sure that
Yes.
I'm in on time so that
Right.
I will have my
Yes.
phone request duly noted.
Yes.
Moving
Okay.
forward, some of the other things I did want to make sure that I got to. Have you done any other, and listeners, if you all have questions, I guess, particularly if they're listeners, because there were quite a few people. You did send me the book last time around, and I did share it with listeners who asked for as long as the file that I had as it worked. So if they're listeners, if you got the Wheat Money, you read it subsequently, and you have questions, dial in. If you're one of the folks who dialed in when she was with us in 2014, and you got to ask questions then, and you want to follow up and get questions in now, I see some of the same people that were on the line. Feel free to dial in. If we have new listeners, certainly dial in. Take advantage. There are so many things to ask about, people's favorite subject matter, Area 8, sexual intercourse, and then we have our quote-unquote biracial child in this as well. Lots of different ways to approach. You all are in Washington State now, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
You are also, right?
Yes, ma'am. What?
I think we are on opposite sides of the Cascades.
Okay.
We are near Pullman.
Oh, wow. You're far,
And
way far. That's like, wow,
Yeah.
I feel so bad for your daughter and husband. My gosh. I am in Seattle, so we're on totally opposite sides of the state, and it looks totally opposite. Like, see, Washington State, period, is super white. It's one of the whitest states you can be in. Seattle is where they do have like a teaspoon of color, non-white people, but you hit like Pullman, once you get over to that area, oh my, like, man, I would not want to, I feel very sorry for your husband and your daughter. How has their experience been hanging out in Pullman? How long have you all been there?
Well, and we're not even in Pullman. We are in my mom's hometown, which is 300 people. It's called La Crosse. And, you know, I could let Leah speak to that. My husband, for him, he feels that it is better to be around around 298 white people and no cops than to be anywhere with police. And so he's in a position now where he has finally hit that mark of 7 years since he had a felony, and he's doing really, really great. We feel like he is more likely to live and not be exposed to police violence, but there is a trade-off for Leah. Luckily, she has a ton of confidence in herself, and probably within another year, we will start as soon as we can sort of get the RV paid off and buy a real car, then we will probably get an apartment in Spokane, and that way she can be around more black people. So she's faring well. She loves being black, and she is just very chocolatey now that the swimming season is here. She's darker than her dad right now.
When you were with us in 2014, she was, I think, 8 at the time. And when you were talking about her complexion, and she was in the video, so I mean, people could see her when you all were down in Ferguson. But she was, I don't know, maybe President Obama's complexion. Is that from 8? Is that from your?
Yeah.
But she was from my.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Seeming in the ballpark. You can check the video for yourself, but seeming like President Obama. So you think she's significantly darker now than from what she looked like at 8. If you had to give us somebody like that we've seen whose skin complexion you would say is pretty similar, who would you say?
Give me some choices. I
Michelle
can definitely
Obama.
do it from choices.
Michelle Obama.
Oh no, not that. Not
too
that
dark. Okay. Alicia Keys.
Much darker than Alicia. Yeah.
Okay. Has that's significantly darker than, what she was when she was 8 years old. Has that impacted her life in terms of how people treat her?
I don't know. Can we ask her?
Let's ask her.
Do people come here, babe. Sit right here. Do people treat you differently when you have your summer color as opposed to your winter color? Okay, come sit. We got to share the... Oh, honey, just say hello. Nope, she's saying no.
She's saying no.
Now
Okay.
she's shy. No, I don't think this is not. I don't know. Why would they? I don't know. She says no. She was dark. One thing that we posted on Facebook last year was Leah can pass the reverse paper bag test after a week of swimming. So I have a picture of her holding the paper, the lunch bag, because that used to be the measure of whether you acceptable to the people, the middle-class blacks. You had to be lighter than a paper bag, and she is significantly darker than a paper bag. But she'll fade. In the winter, she'll be maybe right at a paper bag. I don't know.
With the parenting over that time, that's a pretty large chunk of time for a child to go from 8 to 11 with where she is now. Have you all had more like direct conversations about racism with her?
Yeah, absolutely. What were we talking about when we were driving? And I was saying, we talk probably, how often do you think we talk about racial subjects? Do you think it's daily? Kind of. Maybe every 3 days. I don't know. Yeah, she says every 3 days or so. When I gave examples last time, the people in the comments weren't satisfied with my answers, so I don't know if I should give examples or not. I don't know.
How about this? For an example, do you talk to her so that she understands that you are white and that she should be thinking that, hey, even my mom practices racism?
No, I would never tell her that.
Why not?
He says, have I told you that I'm white and therefore I practice racism? And she's got her hands on her hip and her brow furrowed. Because my definition of racism is different than yours. So
you said you didn't have a definition of racism. You said in 2014 that's and today you didn't have. See, that's what I mean. That's what I mean about Krystl Tyler. At the end of the day, you can say a whole lot of things. At the end of the day, the primary thing I attach, very tacky white woman, very high on the list of race soldier. I mean, you can't even, if you're keeping it real, like, come on, I just asked you, it hasn't even been 40 minutes. I just asked you, do you have a definition of racism?
You're right.
Nope. Now you're going to come back, according to my definition of racism, I can't be a racist. What's that definition again?
No.
I'm going to go to the callers. Do you have a definition of racism? Unless I missed something, do you have a definition of racism?
No.
Okay, I'm going to go to the callers.
No,
Folks who dialed in with the question. Hang on. Unless you have a better explanation for what just happened, I can only conclude this is how racism is practiced. I would just say that for the listeners. That right there, this is the thing that we deal with every day. White people just being dishonest, where they lie to you directly about things you talked about just within the last 30 minutes. When we're talking about racism, white supremacy, your daughter being confused, direct practice of racism, not even understanding my mom is practicing racism right now, every day, all the time. Just her presence here is supporting, strengthening the system of white supremacy, and you're directly confusing other victims of racism. I'm going to go to the callers. The number 641-715-3640. The code 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. And again, since I'm going to the spa tomorrow, courtesy of my hookup, as long as Krystl Tyler is down to hang out and not accuse us of being verbally abusive and other false charges, we can hang out until folks get all their questions asked and everyone is satisfied. We'll go in order, people that I see hands. So I think the first person that dialed in with a hand up was Thomas in New York. I'm not sure if he was here the first time around when you were on the program in 2014. Thomas in New York, did you get to ask questions the first time around when Krystl Tyler was on the program, or were you after the fact?
Absolutely. I just certainly did. I think both times she was on the show. I do have a question. I wanted to ask you this the last time. And you had made reference last time. You said that your black husband was a crack addict. Am I right?
Yeah. Yep.
Is he still a crack addict first?
Nope.
Okay. Are you a drug user yourself, or have you ever been a drug user?
No, I have not. I've gotten high on marijuana 3 times in my entire life.
And
I
no
don't
other.
drink. No,
Okay.
I don't drink.
All right. And what's your educational background?
I was a terrible high school student, but I graduated with honors from Colorado State University with a degree in journalism, specifically like video journalism, so broadcast, with a minor in education. I went to work for a couple of years. I went back to school at Arizona State University to study more about education and how to sort of design lessons. After that, I did not use my degree for a very long time because I was working in the computer industry, which was going through a boom.
Okay. Now, you disagree with Gus's definition of racism, white supremacy, as you said. I just said this is yes or no questions for you. Are there any people in the world that are not affected by or under the system of racism, white supremacy?
Probably people, probably very, very few remote tribes in Papua New Guinea, the Brazilian Amazon rainforest, though it's certainly, I mean, you know, there are places, but it's few and far between. Wow.
Okay. You are aware that the Rothschild family owns the Brazilian rainforest, right? Are there any man-made problems in the world that is not caused by the system of racism and white supremacy?
Probably not.
Okay, and this is my last question. Thank you, Gus, for taking my questions. Are there any man-made problems in the world that white people can't solve in the system of racism and white supremacy?
I don't think that they should be trusted to solve them. I think that white people certainly have a lot of power to get out of the way and to fund the solving of those problems, but I don't think that we can trust the powers. You know, it's the master's tools will not disassemble the master's house. Don't put your trust in white people for disassembling this system, because we, they, whoever, are the ones who made such a mess of things.
Did that answer your question, Thomas in New York?
Not really, but I did like the answer. I don't trust white people to fix anything. But my question was simply, is there any problems that exist in the world that white people can't solve under the system of racism, white supremacy? But I respect her answer. No, we shouldn't trust them to fix anything. I'm doing my line. Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. Our black female mother in Michigan, she also was with us last time. I think, if memory serves, you left her speechless. With your twisted logic and responses. She was almost befuddled to the point where she couldn't get a question out. Might have happened 2 times. Caller in Michigan, are you with us?
I am with you. Good evening, Gus, and thanks for taking my call. I do have a couple questions. I do want to say thank you for playing Mr. Fuller at the beginning of the program. So my question to you, Ms. Tyler, is what do you recommend be done to replace racism, white supremacy with justice?
So, to me, this is the kind of question that is going to probably cause me to ramble. So I'll try very hard to remain disciplined. It is important to begin, though, by saying, I'm not a scholar. I'm just a lady who had a kid with a black guy and who feels bad for things that have happened and wants to, on a daily basis, try to figure out something that could be done to make things better. So, I'm not an expert by any stretch. So what do I think needs to be done? Well, one thing is,
that I not accrue wealth that I did not earn. And so where my sisters and brothers all have late model cars and all have college funds and have nice homes and have equity in their homes and have great credit, I seem to be consistently giving our money away every time we get the wheat money. I distribute it. I will follow through and distribute some to this show. And I think that it is important. I don't know what the solution is, but I think that it makes sense for people to have a little more socialist leanings, because for as long as there is greed and this need to be rich, we will continue. It is hard to get rich without stepping on someone's neck. And so we will never be rich because we will give it away. And somehow I have to balance that with am I going on too long?
A little bit.
Okay, done.
So that's your answer? Okay, so I have another question. What are you doing? Like, what action are you personally taking right now, today, tomorrow, every single day? What are you doing to replace racism with justice?
This is also a pretty hard question. However, I believe that the next big push, the next big gentrification will be the small towns. And I think white people, because I work remotely, I log into my computer.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Miss Tyler, I'm sorry to interrupt. Please forgive me, but I understand. I sound like you're kind of veering off. What are you doing? Like today, what did you do today? On this day today, what did you do to help, or, what action did you take to replace racism, white supremacy with justice? What did you do?
Well, I made a payment on the house that I'm in because to put it as quickly and shortly as possible, I think that we need to get enough property in this town to turn it into a black town. And I think it's very doable. There's only 300 people here. And a lot of them moved here because they don't want to live around black people. And I think that black people should try to move to small towns. There was a movement to make all black towns when the West first opened up, and it failed.
Miss Tyler, I know that Gus and, there's a lot of people that want to ask questions, so that was sufficient enough for me. I have one last question, and I asked it before. Who do you think is most confused about racism, white supremacy, and why? White people or non-white people? Who is most confused, most ignorant, and why do you say what you say?
Can you repeat it? Because I lost a couple of words. I didn't hear a couple of confused.
Who do you think is most confused, most ignorant, just don't understand the system of racism, white supremacy, what it is, how it's practiced? Who's most confused, white people or non-white people?
I don't know. You're giving me extremely complex.
Thanks for taking my call, Gus. I will go back on mute. This is definitely one of my favorite guests.
One in a million.
The person, let's see, who dialed in from last four digits, 5136. 5136. Did you have a question for Ms. Tyler?
Yes, Gus. How you doing? To Gus and callers and listeners. Ms. Tyler, are you on any antidepressant medicine?
Yeah, I am. I'm on sertraline, and so is my husband, which helps him with, issues that he used to have.
Thank you for answering my question.
Because
I'll mute my line. Thank you, guys.
Oh, right on. That was a quick one. Big victim, Alabama. Person who called in last four digits, 3979. 3979. Did you have a question for Miss Tyler? Three nine. Ma'am, can you stop with the singing? Ma'am, Miss Tyler, can you stop with the singing? Because I'm trying to see if somebody is on the line here. 3979. Did you have a question for Miss Tyler?
Hey, Gus, this is Devin and Norma from Miami.
Oh, greetings.
Hey, good evening. I wanted to ask Miss Tyler, do you teach your daughter that she's a black person or that she is biracial?
So we had this on last time, but I'll try to keep it short. I call her black. I call her mixed. It depends on the context. I want her to be proud of being black. And so I think it is important for her to, at times, define herself as black with no caveats. But there are also times when she defines herself as mixed.
Okay, so do you think that she's confused as to who she is and who she's around?
No, actually I don't. I think she's super confident. She's smart, and what her strengths and weaknesses are. I think she's a very happy kid who has a great outlook on life.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your answers. And the let's see here. I had one final question. 1 second, babe. Did you have a question? All right. Well, that's it. I thought my wife had a question. That would be it. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys, for taking my call.
Yes, sir. Good to hear from you. Hope you and your wife are doing well. Let's see.
Yeah, we have to do something here, so we've been quite busy.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Let's see. The person who dialed in, last four digits, 2812. 2812. Did you have a question for Miss Tyler?
Yes, good evening. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Gus. Miss Tyler, I have a question, and hopefully if you can be as honest as possible, it's really, really important. Have you ever had a extremely serious conversation with another white person that was concerned, disappointed, or angry about your interracial relationship? And can you share what their concerns were? Hello? Hello?
Miss Tyler, are you with us? Miss Tyler? Miss Tyler, are you there? Not hearing anything? Not sure if she is practicing racism or if there was some interference. Miss Tyler, are you with us? Seems like, let's see. Okay. Miss Tyler, are you there?
Hello?
Okay, we can hear you. Don't know. Something must have happened.
Did you mute me when I was
singing? I did not. I should have muted you then, but I was waiting on your response.
Yeah.
I think it might have happened when I unmuted the caller. But yes, did you hear his question?
I think so, yes. So I have not had a conversation like that in a really long time, but it used to be that people would tell me that you shouldn't
I'm sorry, Miss Tyler.
date across.
Miss Tyler.
Yeah.
My question was not a really long time. I said my question was, have you ever had a very serious conversation with another white person about your interracial relationship where they were concerned, disappointed, or angry about the relationship, and can you share what their concerns were?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. No, I have not had, I wouldn't really listen to a concern like that, probably. I mean, why would I? I mean, she's here now. So regardless of whether people think that it was a good idea, the deed is done.
Okay, I just wanted, just for clarity, in the beginning of the conversation, you said in the beginning that you didn't have one for a long time, and then you came back and you said you haven't had a conversation. So I have one last question, Gus. When white people do not know that, Ms. Tyler, that you are in a quote-unquote interracial relationship in a social setting, what do those white people say about black people? And I'll be my line.
I wasn't sure I understood what he said. Can you repeat it, Gus?
Absolutely. I can repeat the question, Ms. Tyler. When you are around, no, that's fine. When you are around white people who do not know that you are in a quote-unquote interracial relationship in a social setting, what do those white people say about black people?
People don't say things around me. First of all, I'm very introverted and I don't go out much. I'm not a very social person. But even when I find myself in a social situation, people don't say stupid stuff around me. White people don't talk about race around me. Oh, the closest thing to that was a lady from town. Everybody here is trying to recruit Leah to their church. So a lady offered to take her to some threshing bee. And on the way back, she started ranting about how Michelle Obama doesn't have any business telling people what to eat because she's fat. And I was dying. I thought it was hilarious because she is a train wreck. And who is she to say that Michelle Obama is anything? So that's the closest thing anyone has said to me that was racial. But she was like, she is fat. And I was like, okay.
So just for clarity, and I'll shut up, Gus.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, you as a white person have never been around another group of white people that have spoken negatively about black people in any setting or any form.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it's been a while. I'm
good.
Why is that so funny? I don't even know what I said.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, because you guys think. I got it. No, go ahead. Please help me understand. For my next appearance on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I can
the question, Ms. Tyler,
improve
question
the
was
code.
Any time. So any time could be yesterday. Any time could have been when you were 19. Any time could have been when you were 16.
But I thought I started to answer that, and then you said you didn't want something going back that far. So I tried to come as close to the present time as possible.
Thanks, Gus.
I don't know. Yeah, well. What I like least is when you guys enjoy the semantic games. Because, of course,
Hang on a second. Thank you. We'll make time for your editorial about your displeasures or dissatisfaction with the broadcast. We did have other callers, and I want to make sure they get a chance to get their questions in. The person who dialed in last 4 digit. Oh, this is retired firefighter. Retired firefighter in Florida. Did you have a question for Miss Tyler? I think some of the times when I go to the next caller, it might mute Miss Tyler's line. Are you still with us, Miss Tyler? You can hear us?
Am I? I don't know.
Okay, we can hear you.
Hear me?
Great. Retired firefighter, did you have a question?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to about 30 minutes ago, but in my opinion, it doesn't seem that the guest is serious about anything from the moment that she probably asked you about coming on the program, and I don't want to corrupt the opportunity for anybody else that may have the urge to ask her any questions. So I'll decline and probably join in the conversation after she hangs up. Thank you.
Right on. Person who dialed in. Let's see. Trying to make sure I get people in the order they called in. Okay. Caller at 4615. 4615. Did you have a question for Ms. Tyler?
Yes. Greetings, Gus. Ms. Tyler, like the last caller said, is definitely not being serious. He's joking, and the joke is on black people. Ms. Tyler, I have a question. You restated to your daughter that Gus said that he surprised you, that he suspects that you could be practicing racism. You gave a description of your daughter's reaction as if she said no. My question is, if you yourself don't know about racism, how in the world does she? To understand what it is you're talking about. Did you get my question?
Not really.
Hello?
Can you say it again? What does my daughter know about racism?
Yes. Well, what I'm saying is that Gus said that he suspects you of practicing racism. You retold that to your daughter. Your daughter made a gesture as if to say, no, you're not. And my question is, how is it that you don't know about racism, but she does, to give an accurate answer to the question that her suspicions, Gus' suspicions of you being a racist? How do you don't have a definition, but she does, to understand racism? Are you understanding the question?
I think so, but I don't want to be accused of rambling or not being serious. Please interrupt me if I veer off even a little. I forgot the question. You said, how is it that you, when Gus suspected you of being practicing racism, your daughter asked, what did he say? You told your daughter what Gus said. You said she put her hands on her hips and had this reaction to say no. So my question is, how is it that you don't know about racism, or what the definition of racism, but she does to say no? I would, had I said to her, Leah, are you aware that benefits accrue to me that I have not earned because I am white and there is a strong racist history in this country? She would say yes. But it's just the way that it is phrased that she does not think of it that way, because her dad does not want to point out racism or talk about racism.
Okay, you're just going around. What I'm saying is that how do you not know what racism is, a definition for it, but she does to say, no, you're not. That's it. Like, does she have a definition of racism? So first I would like... No, I would say she probably doesn't. But her gut feeling... My next question, because we got a lot of callers. You describe your daughter's skin tone as summertime, wintertime. Is that the way that white people talk about their so-called, quote, biracial children? When black people, they call them summertime, wintertime color?
What? Can you say it again? You're kind of...
Do white people who have these children with victims of racism, do they refer to their daughters or sons' skin tone as wintertime, summertime complexion, just as you did?
Okay, let me try to repeat the question. Do white people who have mixed-race children refer to their children's skin tone as summer and winter? Is that what you asked?
Summertime. You said your daughter has summertime skin tone. Right. Do they refer? So white people do that.
I don't know. Nobody. I mean, I'm the only one who ever did it, I guess. I haven't heard other white people say that.
Okay. One last question. With your relationship with your black husband, who has the power in their relationship?
What?
With your marriage, your relationship, your interracial relationship with your black husband, so-called, who has the power in that relationship?
Yes.
Does he have the power or you?
I only heard you say, oh, I do.
Who has more
far
power
and away.
Who has more power in your so-called marriage with your, he does?
Yes. No, me.
You say he does?
No, me. M-E.
Oh, you. Okay. All right. Thank you for answering my questions. Thank you, Gus.
Yeah, I did hear it pretty clearly on that one. I don't know if the line, I heard me.
It doesn't mean that I want it that way.
Mm-hmm. Other people who had a question, the person, I guess you're dialing in from a blocked number. If you dialed in from a blocked number with a question for Ms. Tyler, line should be open.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Okay. I just had a question. How did you write a book on racism with no definition of racism?
I actually did not write a book on racism. I wrote a book on the history of two families, one white and one black, and what happened to us, and some programs, and some theories about why things turned out the way they did. I didn't really write a book on racism.
But could you say that racism attributed to how one family might have gotten better positioned than another one?
Absolutely. But if I can expand on my answer a little, is that okay?
Yeah.
I tried when I really set out to make the case, I made sure that I never talked about, black people. I said, this is my husband's grandmother. This is what was happening at the time. This is my grandmother. This is what was happening at the time. And I was careful never to imply that black people failed because they were made to feel bad about themselves, because that could just as easily make someone stronger. And I was astounded at how solid my case turned out to be. It seems like white people get very defensive, and they don't really like finishing the book. But I never said that, there are some people here in this town, wheat money, the same way I got mine. Our people came out. They were given the land free from the government.
I'm just happy because it does seem like she has deviated from the question a little bit. I'm just returning to the question. Yeah. The word racism is in the book 29 times. No definition, but it is in the book.
Okay, it's a
29 times.
Okay. Do you want to read maybe a few of the sentences?
We've already done that. This is your third time on the program. Caller, ma'am, did you have other questions for Mr. Tyler?
I did have one more question. I did recently listen to your first time on the program, and you said that your husband, you chose your husband because you didn't want to take the quote-unquote good black men away from other black women. And you also made a comment about just wanting him for his genetics. And I was just wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that. What made his genetics special?
So I cover this a lot in the book, and I actually didn't talk about it. Gus read an excerpt. But what it boiled down to was I just did not, someone on YouTube said, I can see why she wanted his genetics. She's ugly as fuck. And I wrote, I agree. I did not believe that my weaknesses should be magnified. And so I tried to find someone as opposite my weaknesses as possible. And I think I go on at length in the book of exactly what I was looking for and why I made such a snap decision. And yeah.
So you basically just went shopping?
No, I think he was I was dating another black guy at the time. I had been with him for 10 years. He had a great job in Washington, D.C. He was a former professional athlete. And I did not want to have children with him because he cheated on me so much. And because my genes with his would have been a disaster. He has a big forehead like I do, blah, 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 blah. So there were a lot of things swirling around me at the time. And I had just recently decided I wanted to have a kid, and pronto. And he told me he couldn't have a kid. And I thought, well, here's a great way for me to provide cover, meaning I'll tell my if I can get pregnant by him, I'll tell my family, oh, no, I didn't mean to. He said he couldn't have kids. Because they were going to be very middle class about things. You need to do things in order, get married, blah, 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 blah. When I told them I was pregnant, they said I should abort. I said, I'm 37. I don't know if I can get pregnant again. So once I knew I was pregnant, and he was still struggling mightily with the crack, and I was so naive and so stupid. And I said to him, look, you can be a part of this baby's life or not. You can be the sperm donor or you can be the dad. That is totally up to you. And here we are 11 years later, and he becomes a better dad every day. But it wasn't going shopping. I had dated professional athletes. I had gotten pregnant by professional athletes, and I had aborted their children because I wasn't ready to have a baby. I wasn't ready to be tied down. I didn't think I'd be a good mother. So the whole Frances Cress Welsing stuff of me trying to make these, it's just nuts.
But would you have told your middle class family that you didn't mean to get pregnant had you kept the athlete's children?
Oh, no, I don't think I would have needed to, because these were middle class people. The men that I dated were by and large middle class. I had never dated someone who was homeless. I mean, why would that make sense? But he was a very loving, genuine, good guy. And maybe all of that was insincere. Maybe a portion of that was insincere. But to me, he just seemed perfect. And everything that I have been through with him, all the crack, all the money shit, all this stuff, has never hurt me as much as being cheated on. Cheated on was devastating to me because it hurt my self-esteem. So when my friends would say, oh my God, I can't believe that you just made him go to rehab and you're going to stay with him. And I was like, oh my God, if his mistress is crack, I'll take that over a stripper any day.
All right, then. Well, thank you.
Context of White Supremacy. Check in to make sure I did not miss any of the callers who dialed in. The number again, 641-715-3640. The code 564943 #. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. I'm just checking, covering my bases. Caller 8162, we got your question? Yes?
I'm good, Gus.
Right on. Great. The caller at 51360, did we get your question? 5136, did you have a question, or did we already get you?
I already asked Gus.
Great. Did we miss anybody? Anybody that had a hand up for a question that we missed completely? Anybody have a hand up for a question that we neglected, forgot? Awesome. Covering everybody. Spectacular. I did want to ask, I thought it was an important point in the book. You said, I don't think we read this portion either the first two times when you were on. You said, when we first met, I'd understood his mindset, talking about your husband, and I'd respected it. Somewhere along the way, though, I decided he had nothing of value to contribute to our daughter's upbringing. And you weave from admitting that, importantly, you weave from that to him saying, our child is not white and she needs to be able to function in a world where she's not going to be accepted as white, where one day you won't be here, white woman, likely race soldier, to maybe ward off some racist attacks and kind of keep her safe somewhat in a world dominated by white supremacy. And she needs to be able to function and understand that correctly. You actually wrote that in the text. And I think a caller, the first time that you were on the program, I think a caller wrote in and just, I think they asked, what would happen if something were to happen to you? Like if you died, God forbid, or what have you, if something were to happen to you and now it's just black father, non-white daughter, and how radically that would change just extracting that one white person from their life. Like looking at your life now, what would happen if something were to happen to you, not, wishing that, just saying, what would happen if the white person was extracted from these non-white people's lives?
So you're asking me that now?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
What?
Yes, ma'am. That's the question. I'm asking you that now. What would happen?
Oh, okay. Yes. So I'm not sure that I can address this because last time I tried to address it, of course, it made me feel very sad to imagine it, my daughter being without me. So I cannot address it because I'm not allowed to show emotion on your show. I did good. I got through that. You might have heard my voice shake just a little, but I am not going to cry on your show again, even though last time all that happened was my voice shook because you guys said what would happen if you died. Wow. And I'm not supposed to be emotional about that, so I can't really go there. It's huge. Of course, it makes me very upset.
All right. I mean, that's valid, though, right? In the context of racism, white supremacy, valid question. It was valid before. I thought it was valid now, right? It's a valid question, yes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, I would love to answer it, but I'm sure that my voice would break as I answered it. And you have told me that crying is not allowed. So why even bother? I'm going to get in trouble the minute I start trying to answer it. Because I'm telling you, I'm a crier. And if I start telling y'all what my child's life would be like if I died, yeah, that's going to be upsetting for me.
Mm-hmm.
You're just saying just buckets and buckets of words.
Did any of our listeners have any other questions they wanted to make sure they got in? Any of the listeners, if you are lollygagging, have something that you want to ask Ms. Tyler, make sure that you get in. Any questions?
Another question.
We should.
Thomas in New York. Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Gus. I'm still stuck on the summertime skiing. That one was that was the first I've heard that, her summer color. Do you teach your daughter that she gets that summer color and you don't get that summer color because you're genetically inferior to her?
What? What?
I said, do you teach your daughter that she gets her summer color and you don't get your summer color because you're genetically inferior to her?
I'm sorry, I really can't. It's like your phone clips your words. If Gus can hear it and repeat it, I'm sure that I would be...
I apologize. Can you hear me better now?
Okay. Much.
Okay, do you teach your daughter that she gets her summer color and you don't get your summer color because you're genetically inferior to her?
Oh. I love these questions about genetics because Francis Krystl Wessling has a has a very strange concept. There is something called recessive.
Dr.
And the same thing as inferior. Huh?
I said her name is Dr. Francis Krystl Wessling. Dr. Francis Krystl Wessling.
Yes, Dr. Welsing. We'll just say Dr. Welsing. Will that work?
That's fine.
So she's a MD and she's a psychiatrist, but I don't know what training she had in genetics, and I just think she misunderstands the concept of recessive versus dominant genes. It doesn't mean inferior. No gene is inherently inferior. A gene is good in so much as it helps you survive, and a gene is bad in so much as it doesn't help you survive. And by survive, I mean have children who can go on to have children who can go on to have children. So,
do you live on planet
are
Earth
a
now?
dark,
Ms. Tyler, do you
Yes,
live
I
on
do.
planet Earth? Do you live on planet Earth?
Yes, I do.
Do you walk outside and see the sun in the morning?
Yes, I do.
So you're telling me that it's not a genetic inferiority for someone who cannot take the sunlight and for other people who can, that they're not genetically superior to the people who cannot take the sunlight? Is that what you're saying?
If you live in Antarctica and you have dark skin, you
live
can't
in
have a
America,
baby.
like right now in America. I don't know about people who live in Antarctica, but the people who live in Antarctica, they're brown. I think they're called Eskimos and people in that area. I'm talking about right now in America, in this world, anyone who can take the sunlight, more so than another person. Are you saying that that person is genetically inferior in a planet that's governed by a sun?
No, because it only matters if I die of skin cancer before I give birth to a child. And it only matters if she dies of some sun-related or some melanin-related disease, melanin deficiency. All that matters in the grand scheme of things is whether you have children who can have children who can have children. And so you can say that I'm inferior, but I had a kid, and she's 11 now. And if you have a kid, you're doing something right. It's just, I mean, I think dark skin is beautiful, but I don't think that that makes me inferior to them on some kind of micro biological level, unless I am stranded with no clothes on an island along the equator. Then I'm screwed. You would win. But in America today, I am not sick because I don't have as much melanin or the genes that produce melanin. I'm not dying. So, you know, fish die if they're not in the ocean or in water. And cats drown if you hold them underwater. Whether you are fit to survive depends on where you are. Neither you nor I are at threat of dying because of the, well, that's probably not true. But I am not worried about melanin deficiency killing me because I live in a house. I am not outside all day.
Hang on one second, Miss Tyler. We had other people who wanted to get a question in. The person who dialed in, last four digits, 8617. 8617. Did you have a question for Miss Tyler? Caller 8617. Did you have a question?
Oh, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know that at the beginning of the show, if I recall, you asked Ms. Tyler what was her educational background, and I just wanted to know if she was a geneticist. And I'll mute my line. Thank you.
I am not. I did major in anthropology for 3 years, and I took classes on genetics and anthropology and evolution. So I understand how evolution, the theory of evolution, is thought to work. And so I probably have more training in genetics and evolution than Dr. Welsing, but I couldn't say that for sure. It's just that the things that she theorizes, along with her lovely theory about white men giving their chocolate-covered nuts, it's a little out there.
Right on. The caller at, I guess you're using the, that's interesting. The switchboard the call order kind of moved around on me. The caller, I guess you're on the VOP line perhaps, I'm not sure. Did you have a question? Maybe you're on a headset, it seems. Caller, I guess you're on a VOP line. I just opened your... I can hear you. It sounds like your line is breaking up a little bit. Give us another sentence.
Yes, can I be heard?
Oh, yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Greetings to everyone on the line. I apologize. I tuned in rather late, so I apologize if some of these questions have already been answered. But going back to something you said a little while ago, Ms. Tyler, or Mrs. Tyler, you said that you moved to an area in Washington that white people moved to get away from black people. Is that correct?
Well, this is what some of the people have told my husband. They're poor people who use government benefits to move here because it's super cheap to live here. And so what I say in the book even is sometimes white flight is a very good thing. And I think that blacks could pretty easily take over a dying town because some of the white people would freak out and leave. And that would be wonderful, I think.
Okay, I apologize. That was a little wordy for me. And I'm kind of tired from a long day at work. But it's kind of a yes or no. Basically, is that what you said, that white people move to that area to kind of get away from black people? It's like a yes or no.
Some people have said that, yes, but I did not hear it directly.
Okay. And they told your black husband that?
Yes.
Okay. Have you decided any, plan or action when inevitably your non-white child will receive some type of mistreatment from those white people in that area?
This would be a fairly wordy answer, so I'll just say yes.
Gus, if you can try to make it as little wordy as possible, the next one is, what is that plan? What have you decided, or what have you and your husband, if you've allowed him input, what have you all decided to do to prepare her for that mistreatment she will encounter?
Can you give me an example so that I can answer in as direct a way as possible?
You can just come up with whatever you have devised. You said you basically have made up a plan, so if you can just give us the details of that.
Yeah, it would be hard without a scenario. It would be hard
what would be a scenario for you? You give us a scenario of what you think the type of mistreatment your daughter will receive.
Well, last year I felt that Leah not standing with her hand over her heart during the national anthem raised the ire of her teacher. That is the impression that I got, that this woman thought it was wholly inappropriate for Leah to do a Colin Kaepernick kind of protest. And I met with the principal and the board guy, head of the board, and we tried a couple of things, and it was not satisfactory, so I homeschooled her. That's an example. If this woman cannot handle Leah expressing... Oh, the other thing was Leah wore a T-shirt that says, "Nah, Rosa Parks 1955." And the teacher did not think that that was an appropriate shirt for school. And I said, I think it's fine. And so we took her out of school and I homeschooled her. That's how we dealt with one thing. Is that a good example?
That is an example. So based off of that example that you just gave me, how would it be correct to sum it up in your response saying that you basically just kind of try to take her away from the white people who are mistreating her? Because that's basically what you just said, right? Like you just removed her from that school environment where white people were mistreating her.
So here's some additional information. In this town, there are 3 other kids in her class. So the class dropped from 4 to 3. That hits this school system hard. They lose $1,000 a month because she is not enrolled. That was devastating for them. And so they have courted us. They have said, oh, is Leah coming back? Oh, look, we're going to do this. Instead of having me talk to certain people, they had me talk to someone whose sister has a mixed race kid or something. You know, they sent a liaison. So I think that they will be on much better behavior this time around. Leah felt that this woman did not like her after these things happened. And I felt that she was a very judgmental person and she was intolerant. And so we hit them where it hurt the most. I wasn't teaching Leah to run away. I was teaching Leah economics tend to make a difference. You know, people did not think it was okay for me to date across color lines until my sister dated an athlete who had gone in the first round of the NFL draft. And somebody said to me, people don't really care about black and white. They only care about green. And I wanted to vomit. But a lot of times, money talks. And so I taught Leah money that she had $1,000 to do with as she wished. We could either give it to the school up on the hill or we could not. I mean, we don't have it. We don't get it. No, it just goes nowhere. So she said, I think we should, but now she's ready to go back. And if something happens that I feel that her rights are not being respected, if somebody tells her she can't wear a T-shirt to school that says Black Lives Matter, oops, Leah's going to be homeschooled again.
You said earlier that somebody told you that nobody cares about black or white, but green talks or something to that effect. Yes. Mm-hmm. How are you differentiating that for your daughter? If you said that made you want to vomit, that you don't think that that's the solution, how are you
I don't.
your daughter that that's not the solution if you're telling her right now with that example that you just gave that she has money that she can either give them or not, and if she doesn't, then somehow that'll maybe make them treat her better, which I'm curious what would prevent them from mistreating her further, and she's just not telling you about it or it being a little bit more deceitful than kind of outright. But anyway, what are you doing to kind of implement in her mind that money is not actually going to solve all of the problems that she will encounter as a non-white person?
That's true, and I appreciate that you have pointed that out. In order to counter that point, I would have to tell another example, and I don't know if that is what makes sense right now because I've been asked to stay short and direct. But I do think that your point is a good one.
Your example, just if you could sum it up with as few words as possible, just to answer the question.
And the question is, am I teaching my daughter that money talks?
What are you teaching your daughter to prevent her from thinking that money will solve all of the problems that she will encounter as a non-white person?
Right. I don't think that I'm teaching her that. I think I'm teaching her a lot of different things. Should I give another example?
If you
Or
can give
not.
it as like in as little words as possible.
Probably.
Not so wordy.
I don't think I can. This is why I'm a writer.
My other question then, and I apologize again if this has been asked, I tuned in late. What was your reason for requesting to come back on the program?
What happened was I listened to it, and I was surprised that 1 in a million was not on there because it was a big lead-in to my first time on the show. So I wrote, what happened to the song about 1 in a million? That was the best part. That was all I wrote. I didn't say, hey, this is me. Hey, how you been, Gus? I just said, what happened to that part? And somebody wrote back, it was removed for copyright, stuff, and would you be willing to come back on the show? And I said, sure, why not? And then the person said, okay, write to this email address. I said, okay. So I don't think I asked to come back on the shows. I don't mind coming on. I think it's good. It's sure, why not? But to characterize it as me wanting to come on the show because I've gotten better at my evil, deceptive she-devil ways, and I want to try to deceive you people I've learned to be more deceitful. So let me back on the show so I can pull the wool over all your eyes.
You're getting verbose now. We got it. Thank you. Much obliged. It was not Gus T who responded to her query about 1 in a million. I believe that was Mr. Fox, who operates the YouTube channel and posts a lot of the C.O.W.S archives, probably this broadcast as well. But I think it was he who responded about the copyright and what have you, and might have said, hey, would you be willing to come back on the program? And then she contacted Gus. But yeah. There we go. We got all that covered. Other folks who, the female caller, did you have other questions?
Just to go off of her response, really, like you said, what you said about the people and all other stuff. But what exactly do you receive, I guess, from being on this program? Like, what do you get out of it?
I don't know. I like to debate. I was on the debate team in college. I enjoy debate.
Okay. Thank you for answering questions. I'm sorry.
Delectable Negro. Let's see. The person who called in from a blocked number, did we get your question? It seems like there might be 1 or 2 people from a blocked number. Did you get your question in, person from a blocked number?
Can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I wanted to know, you mentioned when asked if you were on antidepressants. If you don't mind, what is your diagnosis? That's one question.
I have a lot of social anxiety. I will not go out of the house for 3 weeks if someone doesn't make me. I do not like small talk. I am just anxious and irritable. And so Zoloft really takes the edge off for me and makes me a lot less reclusive.
And my final question is, how do you know, through examples that you can give, how you have more power than your black husband?
Sure. I didn't see it coming. And it disturbs me that it is the way that it is. But he also continues to make choices. For example, he can't drive. Why? Because he got caught drinking and driving. And so I have to drive us everywhere. So if he wants to go to town 30 miles away, or 45 if we want to hit a Walmart, he has to wait until I say okay. One of many ways that he gives away his power. I don't like it. If you are in a marriage, I'm sure that there are lots of arguments that happen where one person feels like they're doing more than the other person. The last thing you want is to be the...
No, ma'am, if I might just clarify, we're talking about race, power. So I'm talking...
Okay.
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, so in a system of white supremacy, him being pulled over when all he had to drink was a beer was probably because he was black. I'm not unaware that his record and the thing that keeps him in the revolving door of the judicial system, that's mass incarceration, that comes from his black skin. So maybe he wouldn't have a revoked license if he were white.
Well, let's say, and I'll stop on this point just to clarify a little bit more, is that if it had nothing to do with the judicial system or drugs, in what other ways that are, say, more average or representative of life on a daily basis, would you say in those instances, can you point out examples of how you have more...
I wonder...
Thank you.
I wonder if you... Okay, so I would like to ask you if it would be acceptable if I answered a question in a slightly different way. What if I told you that my close friend Noelle, who is black, cannot complain about bad service without her being thought of as someone who is quick to anger and unreasonable, while I can make the same claims and get something because I am white and it is thought that I must have a real complaint. This happens a lot. Black people are not allowed a lot of times to ask for a situation to be rectified because white people perceive it as black people perceiving an injustice where there is none.
What about
whereas white people...
Krystl, what about in the area of finance, money, loans, etc.? And I'll mute my line, Gus.
Of course. Of course. Right now, his credit is better than mine because he basically has no credit, and mine is atrocious. But... And this stems to some degree from my education. But yes, financially, he, and I almost don't want to say this out loud because it's not something that we talk about because it would only make him feel bad. He doesn't have the earning potential that I have. So there is, and he makes terrible choices with money. If I let him have the debit card, he would buy a whole bunch of weed, it's legal here, a whole bunch of liquor, cigarettes. I mean, he is, So
I just wanted to pause. Number one, I want to remind listeners of Charlotte Green. Remember Charlotte Green, the black female? She quit her job on air as a reporter to sell weed in Alaska. She was a guest on the program towards the end of 2016. But if I was a black male in a town of 300 people, 299 of them being white, or I guess 298 of them being white, me and my quote-unquote biracial daughter, in an area rumored to be populated by white people who were fleeing niggers, I might be consuming a whole lot of cannabis and anything else to self-medicate if that was in Washington State, no less. Wow, the amount of and one of those white people was in my house. Wow, it was Krystl Tyler. If I had to live with Krystl Tyler, oh my God. I'm done right there. I'm done right there. Caller, did you have another question? Caller, did you have another question, ma'am?
I have even said to him, "Are we that bad that you have to be that numb to get by?"
Hang on, Miss Tyler. Hang on, Miss Tyler.
Okay, the clarity that I'm trying to get at, because you don't have to talk about your husband, but in conversation or when you were teaching or whatever your work was, did you find instances where you were doing similar work and getting paid more than black people?
No, but I tried to have some people hired that were black, that were qualified, and ended up getting let go. They put me on the diversity committee, and I thought, well, they know who I am. They know what I'm about. They wouldn't want me to not tell them what I think, and so I proposed a system of internships where we would work with college students, and then I had two of my friends come in for interviews, and they told the people that interviewed that they weren't hiring at the time, and the company really did implode about 2-3 months later. But yeah, didn't go well. The guy who was hiring was from North Carolina. I think he was pretty crackery, but I figured I had to try.
I suspect you're practicing racism, Krystl, but I thank you for taking my questions. I thank you, and I'll mute my line.
Yes, ma'am.
So
the person
you
who called
suspect
in,
that
hang on, that's nothing new, man. Hang on, Miss Tyler. We had a lot of other people that called in. The caller, last 4 digits. Let's see if I can get the number correct. Last 4 digits. 5300. 5300. Did you have a question for Miss Tyler?
Yes. Greetings, Gus.
Greetings.
Callers and Miss Tyler. My question was, I agree with the other caller. I find that every time you're asked a question, what I notice is that you're very well practiced at dodging the question.
So
what you do, hold on just a second, ma'am. What you do is that when there's a question posed to you, you divert it completely away from everybody has to keep asking you the same question over and over again. Now, can you hear me? Because that's one of the things you keep saying is that it's breaking up. Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you.
Okay. You keep saying that money was not an issue in the athletes that you dated, and the money wasn't a problem, but yet most of your answers always revolve around money. So you say that one of his biggest problems is that, like you just stated, is that he's not a big enough earner. Yet you had the potential to have a higher earner, but you aborted their children. Now, one of my questions is, were the athletes black or were they white?
Were the athletes what?
There we go again. You could just hear me fine. Were the athletes black or were they white?
Black.
Okay, the athletes was black. And you said, you out of your own mouth, out of your own admission, is that you wanted a black person's DNA.
I wanted what?
You wanted your husband's DNA.
Yes, I thought that his genetics were much better than.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah. That's okay. I don't need the extra explanation. I just wanted to know, is that what you said? So I asked that because if the athletes were black and he's black and you just wanted some black DNA, was the point that these black athletes, you felt that they had the control as far as the financial situation, that you couldn't make all of the decisions for them as you do with this brother?
No. Because if you consider that having a baby with a black athlete and then leaving him would have put me in a very nice financial position and would have given that he would have had to pay me paternity and then I would have been able to make all the decisions. So I think you guys...
What do you mean?
Why would it, if what I was really trying to do was manipulate black people, why would I bother with you guys? You guys are going to be a tough sell. I could just go to the nearest town and manipulate black people who, the homeless people of Spokane. I could give them each $1 and make them dance on video. I mean, convince them to jump in the river.
I'm glad you said that out loud, because the woman before me stated that she thought that you was practicing racism. You just confirmed that to everybody else. But that's not important. We already knew that when you came on the show. My next question is that since you came here, and I noticed also that you keep mentioning your book, is that the sole purpose that you continue to call the cows?
No.
It's because you believe that somebody's going to actually want to hear your story to read your book?
No, because I don't make any sales off these calls. I have given the manuscript, so it really is just the interest in some verbal sparring.
Right. So what you're saying is that you coming on the cows with less confused black people is facilitating your way of deflecting towards people that you run into every day.
I don't think so. I think that's what I've heard. I've heard on other programs that the whole point of white women having mixed race children is to weaponize them against the black community. So I'm just.
The first thing is that mixed race is a relatively new term.
Did you have any other questions, sir?
Black.
Did you have any other questions,
no,
sir?
No, sir. I will get off of the Gus. Thank you for taking my call.
Indeed. The person who called in, last 4 digits, 636. Oh, Mr. Steele. Did you have a question, Mr. Steele?
Yeah, I definitely did have a question. This is Ken Steele, and I'm reporting from Hollywood. I just wanted to ask, how many black lives have you terminated through the practice of abortion?
Ooh, I would rather not answer that.
Give us your body count.
No, I can't.
You introduced it into the conversation. I think it would be beneficial for you, just for clarity, for us to understand how many black lives you terminated for things as trivial as having too big of a forehead. The father had too big of a forehead. That was one of the things that you mentioned was a justification for you to terminate your life.
That was not the termination reason. That was not the termination reason. That was the reason when I decided I wanted a child, I did not say to my then partner, hey, let's have a kid. Ugly in the same ways. You don't multiply that by 2. I'm not going to speak. 1,032.
Can you give us the real number, ma'am, please?
No, I cannot.
Why not? Be honest.
Why? So that you can say that I go out and have sex with black men so I can murder their children? Why not just not get pregnant in the first place?
Well, you did it. You told us about it. You seemed pretty forthright about it. I just want to know, how many black lives have you terminated?
Hundreds upon hundreds.
Why can't you be honest about this question? What is it about this
question? Because it's a leading question, and because I've been told not to answer certain things or question my questioners. So no, I'm not going down this route. So you can.
I just want to know a number. Is it 3?
I don't know you.
Is it more than 10? Is it more than 10?
Well, I thought it was more convenient than birth control to pay like $500 and go through excruciating pain. So I've had an abortion every month since I started menses, and I'm 48.
So it's under 10. So how many children?
No.
Black children?
Hundreds. Hundreds.
So I think she's not going to answer the question. Mr. Steele, did you have another question?
Yes. How did you feel after terminating these lives?
It was a mix. It went one way one day and one way another, and it wasn't easy. But I believe that a full-grown woman's life is more valuable than a fertilized egg. And that once a woman has gone through certain things to build herself into a human being, to equate her life with that of a microscopic fertilized egg is atrocious. It is disrespectful toward women and the work that they do to bring a child into the world, and the work that both parents do to raise a child. It is a lot of work.
So you value your white life over the black lives that you terminated through the practice of abortion?
I do not consider them lives. They were microscopic cells that had been fertilized. Did you know, and I'm sure I'll get cut off for this, but did you know that the Jews believe that it is the sperm that are the lives being wasted? And so if you have ever had a wet dream,
Mr. Steele, did you have another question?
I'm done for now. Thank you. Thank you, Gus.
Right on. The caller, excuse me, the caller 7656, did you have a question for Ms. Tyler?
Yes, thank you so much for taking my call. Good evening, everyone. Ma'am, I think, hopefully these are short questions. Did you say that you taught your child you taught her that she was black and mixed, depending on the situation? Is that correct?
Yes.
And did you teach her what it means to be black, or have you taught her that?
Say that again?
Have you taught her about what it means to be black?
Well, of course, I am not super well equipped to tell her what everyone thinks it means to be black, but I want her to be proud of being black. So I don't know if I have taught her what it means to be black, because that is probably very subjective. But I have tried to teach her that black people have a long history, and they have done amazing things in the face of some pretty horrible treatment, and that she should always be proud of being black.
Okay. Did you teach her about the source of that horrible treatment?
Yeah, she knows.
And she knows that the
we talk about it all the time.
And she knows that the source of that treatment looks like you.
Exactly.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Have you taught her what it means to be white? Because you are white.
Right.
Have you taught her that?
I am. I know.
I didn't say. Have you taught her what it means to be white?
I don't know, because that is super amorphous, what it means to be white. I'm sure that can you be more specific about what it means to be white? What are you?
Well, I didn't have to be, I'm sorry. I didn't have to be that specific about what it means to be black, and you said you tried to teach her that, knowing that you're not black. But you, knowing that you are classified as white, you cannot teach her about what being white is? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think that that's true. I have taught her. Okay, let me try. I have taught her about slavery. I have taught her about colonialism. I have taught her about racism in her father's lives and his parents' lives and his grandparents' lives. And I have taught her about privilege in my life and my mom's life and my grandparents' life. And we talk about things like, what does it mean when Trump says, make America great again? Do you think that America used to be great? And she says no, because there were some people, you know the argument.
Right.
Hey,
Ma'am, there we go.
Sorry. I asked, you said you tried to teach her what it means to be black. And I'm asking you as a white person.
No, I didn't.
You did not. You did say that.
I said I can't. Is that what you said? I can't.
No, you said you tried.
I mean, I don't.
You said you tried.
Well,
you said you at least tried, and I'm asking you, are you trying to teach her what it means to be white? Because you said she was mixed, and you, being her mother, know that she's mixed with whites.
Right.
So have you taught her what it means to be white? I didn't say.
I don't. Okay. I don't think that we do it the same way that you're saying. I would go at it from a different angle, and I don't think that I would be allowed to give an example. I would be accused of being too wordy. But I have one about Mandela, but it's okay, about a discussion she and I had about Mandela.
Okay, well, Mandela's not white. I was asking, you are white. Are you saying that to be black?
Oh,
I said to be black.
Yeah, okay.
You had an answer for that. Gotcha. I'm asking about teaching what it means to be white, and you don't.
No.
So you don't know what it means to be white? Hello?
When you live with someone day in and day out, we tend to talk more about instances of we talk about real things. We don't talk broadly what it means to be white, but we talk about things going on in current events and the effect of white and black on those current events. We talk about the fact that Philando Castile would not be dead if he had been white.
But what does that mean? What does being white mean? I mean, have you told her that?
No.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Okay.
But I have taught her
Thank you,
of
ma'am.
my own privilege, and I
Yeah, we didn't ask about that. We didn't ask about that. Thank you. Ma'am, did you have another question?
I don't have the time. Thank you.
Right on.
You've been good. Thanks.
The person who called in, we had other callers. We had other callers. The person who dialed in 4243, last four digits 4243. Did you have a question?
Hello, can you hear me? Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
I can hear you.
Hello. Thank you. Hello, this is Red from Ohio. Thank you for taking my call, Gus. Just had a few questions. So earlier in the call, you had, when you were, I guess, trying to answer someone's question, you had said that basically racism makes black people stronger. So I've heard that sentiment before. Do you feel that rape would make a woman stronger?
God, I mean, that's like, there's a, no, I don't. But I think it's possible.
I'm sorry. So how is it then that racism would make black people stronger? If I'm assuming by your expression when you responded that they're both horrible things that black people have to go through.
I don't want to not answer your question. I got the gist of it. Can you restate it? I got the gist of it, but if I answer what I think was the gist of it, somebody will say I'm ducking and dodging. So can you say it again?
Okay, so I'll start from the beginning. If you said that basically racism makes black people stronger, and then I asked, well,
I didn't say that. I said it could. I said it could be argued that, for example, someone treating you badly made you fight even harder for something. And
Okay.
so...
Okay,
yes.
to keep it short. So, could a woman being raped make that woman stronger? Because if you are saying that racism, I'm sure that you have at least concluded that racism is bad, then in rape, I'm assuming that you probably concluded that rape is bad, then possibly women being raped, that would make them stronger?
I do not know all the different ways that people cope or come out of having been raped. But I think it is conceivable that someone somewhere might say that they were stronger having gone through it. But I'm certainly not saying that makes it okay, or that all women should want to be raped so that they can become stronger. And I think that's where you want to lead me, but it's quite a stretch.
No, I'm not trying to. It seems like it was a stretch by you hinting that, racism within makes Black people stronger. My second question is, since you seem to speak to your daughter about current events, what have you spoken to her about the situation involving Charlena Lyles? Since that situation happened in Washington, there's a Black woman, a pregnant Black woman, or Black female. Have you spoken to her about that and the racism involved?
About what? In Seattle? The thing that happened in Seattle?
Yes, with Charlena Lyles.
I have not, because I don't know why I haven't. It is always hard to know what mix of bad news and empowerment are going to keep a child confident and loving being Black. I messed up with my niece. I do not want to make the same mistake with my daughter.
Okay. The last question that I have is, it seems that you seem to keep describing all the different acts of racism that that Black people around you are experiencing. So then why do you...
The what?
The acts of racism that Black people around you are experiencing. You said that your husband, he seems to self-medicate because of his issues dealing with racism. You also mentioned some friends that you tried to help get internships or jobs that did not actually go through. So my question is, why do you then, if you seem like you, even though you're not admitting to us, you seem like you know what it means to be white, why are you then continuing to surround yourself with Black people who are basically downtrodden, when you also said that your other family members are doing very well? Is this like some type of, I don't know.
Right.
Are you trying to punish yourself?
I think there was a time in my life when I was, and I talk about that in the book, because I didn't know why I was so happy to be in this drug neighborhood. I didn't realize it was a drug neighborhood, and everyone was so happy and nice, and they talked to me, and I was so happy to be there. But then I began to realize that I was feeding my own ego. So, having taken on...
I'm sorry. That's all. I do appreciate that. That definitely answered the question, and I'll mute myself. Thank you for taking the call, Beth.
Indeed.
I don't surround myself.
Let's see.
Hang on.
We got other people. They are aching to get in as well. The person who dialed in, last four digits. Oh, this is another person dialed in from a blocked line. Blocked line. Looks like you might have a headset. That helps any person that dialed in from a blocked number. Oh, did we miss them? I thought I just hit their line. I don't know if they got disconnected, but it seemed simultaneous when I hit their microphone to open their line up. I don't know if they got disconnected or If you got disconnected, I guess, if you're not with us, the person you had, it seems like you had a hand up. I just pressed the line to unmute your line, and it looks like you disappeared. So I guess if you had a question, if you want to call back in and put your hand up, that way I can make sure that I open your line up. But that was, I think, our last caller, unless I am in error, unless I missed something. I think we got all the people.
Gus, that was me, Jerry.
Oh, okay.
Nigga,
Oh, okay, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
No, I already asked the question. I have more, but I'm sure it's other people. So.
No, he said you're the last one.
Yeah, I thought this was the last person.
But he keeps cutting me off, saying we've got so many calls to
because
get to.
we do, and the caller already had their question answered. Red in Ohio, she got all of her questions answered. She was satisfied, and I was too. This is just time for you to dally and likely practice white supremacy. So the caller in Chattanooga, Tennessee, did you have a question you wanted to get in, sir?
Gus, I already asked my question already, Gus.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you had another one. Did you?
You are getting very
Oh, yes.
sleepy.
If I can ask another one, that'd be great.
You should go ahead and ask, sir.
Yes. Another person asked, "Have you taught your daughter how to be white?" Well, the question, the way you answered it, it was very interesting because we all will see how this turns out. What my question is now is that does your husband know that you call in and have these talks on the cows, and does he listen? And that's the only question I have. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, does my husband know what, and does he listen to what?
Does your husband know you come on to the cows, and does he listen?
He does not listen.
Does he know about the cows?
And we spoke earlier. Yes, he does. And he says, why do you even spend time with those people? They are just going to make fun of you and try to catch you in something illogical. And I say, I don't know. I don't have anything else to do today. So, and then he says, I want to talk. And then he drinks, and I think, probably he better not. Because he's a little drunk right now. I'm sure he'd come on, but then he'd tell you something that would make you guys say, well, of a tragic relationship, so of course he is defending her.
Right on. I did say
he's aware.
Right on. I did say at the beginning of the broadcast that I would entertain our listeners. So did any of the other folks who dialed in have a question for Ms. Tyler? Because I did say I would indulge today. So did listeners, anybody else have a question they wanted to make sure they got in?
Yes, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, two questions. Ms. Tyler, besides getting your husband's DNA, were there any other reasons for you marrying him or in choosing to have his child?
Choosing to what?
Choosing
have a child?
To have a child by him and marry him.
It was just a time in my life where I realized I was lonely. It all sort of came down on me at once, and I realized that the partner that I was with was unsuitable to be a father. He wasn't, it wasn't who I wanted, because he cheated on me a lot. I wasn't going to put my kid through that. And so I began thinking about other people that might be willing to have a child with me. I reached out to an ex-boyfriend. He's Jewish, but he's Sephardic Jew, so he has dark skin. Anyway, nothing was really working out. And then this guy who had been nothing but nice pops up again and started getting along really well. When I say I wanted his DNA, I think you guys are being a little literal with it because of the Dr. Welsing theory. But, you know, it was very complex. I didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing at the time. I understand it a lot better now. I wrote about it in the book because I don't think that I can succinctly answer it on a show like this. The only reason I keep referring to the book is because that's the only place I can really thoughtfully lay out a justification.
A justification for?
Like how we came together. Like, why did I break up with someone who had money and a great career and take up and tell this homeless guy, hey, you can move into my house with me, and let's try to have a baby. I mean, it was insane. It was crazy. And my parents and my siblings,
So you don't want to answer. You just refer to your book as your answer.
No, I'm willing to keep talking if you want to.
I don't want you to keep talking. I want you to answer the question, if you could.
Okay, what is the question again?
You forgot. Okay, I think you're joking around, huh, Ms. Tyler? Well, let me. Okay, so I don't think you forgot my question that quickly. So my next question, hopefully you can answer this one, and
I'll try.
How do, and your sarcasm has been, I don't know, I guess that's your way of practicing racism. But
whatever. Okay, fine.
Okay, but my
guys laugh at me the whole time. You laugh at my answers. You say, "Wow, interesting. Fascinating."
My next question is, how do Black people end the system of white supremacy? What do we do? Can you give us some tips? Or
I wish I knew.
Oh, guess. Can you just,
A woman told me once. A Black woman told me once.
Ma'am, I want what you think.
I took to heart what she said. I think it was very sage. She said, "Some of us play on offense, some of us play on defense, and some of us play on special teams." Her belief was, and I agree with her, I think it's very cool.
You're just saying just buckets and buckets of words.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, we're listening.
White people love to say buckets of words.
Yes, but what, could you continue?
Sure. Some people, take for example Michelle and Barack Obama, they are on offense. They are out there achieving things, making things happen. There are other people who are on defense. I would think you guys are kind of on defense. You are trying to make good lives for your families, but maybe not by what you perceive to be white people's rules or something like that. I don't know, but I think that the answer is that everyone has to define for themselves how they will fight racism. I absolutely understand that you guys believe that you cannot lay down with the enemy and wake up and fight for justice. And at some level, I agree with that. But it's too late for us. We are a family now. And
Ms. Tyler, so you don't have an answer?
I thought I gave you an answer.
Okay.
It is different for everyone. I gave you an example of how I think Barack and Michelle are doing it. I gave you an example of how I think you guys are doing it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is definitely archived. That metaphors. We talk about metaphors regularly.
I know.
Were there any callers that had a question that I missed?
Well, a Black woman came up with.
Hang on one second, ma'am. Hang up one second, ma'am. Hang on. Miss Tyler, hang on, please.
Okay.
Were there any callers that we missed out that did not get a question, had a question? If I missed your line, got confused somehow, you dialed in late?
Yes, sir. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, Gus. Greetings, Miss Tyler. Sorry, I had some phone trouble, so I was kind of in and out. I just had two quick questions. Miss Tyler, are you and your husband still currently married?
We are, but we have not had sex in years.
That's all I
So
needed.
he does not.
Next question.
He does not
Hello?
technically lie down with the enemy. We don't actually sleep in the same bed.
All right.
So that's good, right?
So, Miss Tyler, did you say earlier that if you gave him your debit card, you wouldn't trust him with it because he might buy basically drugs and alcohol?
I guess, yes, you could characterize what I said that way, yes.
Okay, so you don't trust him. Is that correct?
Yes, and we have tried different experiments with...
Okay, next question. So, if you don't trust him, why are you guys still currently, quote-unquote, married?
Because the most important thing to both of us is our daughter, and we don't want to not be with her.
All right. Thank you, and I'll mute my line.
Right on.
He actually...
Did we miss any of the callers? Did we miss any of the callers? Anybody have questions that got left out, missed, have a hand up, and we did not get your question? Do we get everybody? Anybody that has a question?
It's fascinating.
Anybody that we missed?
It's fascinating that he judges my marriage and says so-called marriage.
Anyone?
There's a lot of ways.
Oh, we got a question. Hush, Miss Tyler. Hush, Miss Tyler.
We're doing it.
Did you have a question?
Okay, I'll be quiet now.
Yes, I do. I was just curious. Has your husband ever called you out on your racism, white supremacy?
Yes.
Why does he choose to stay with you if you're a practicing racist white supremacist?
Because he loves his daughter very much and does not want to miss a day of her life.
So he'd rather just stay with a white supremacist as opposed to having some type of visitation arrangement?
I couldn't really speak on that because that's his decision that he's made.
So I assume that you pay for everything then, right?
What?
So I can assume that you pay for everything then. I love your
More
selective
or less,
hearing.
yes.
I'm going to my next question. You said that
he has worked at different times. He's paid for things.
So you did hear the question. Anyway, my next question is, would you consider yourself fetishizing darker people? You said that you dated a Jewish person who had darker skin, and I've seen a picture of you and your husband, and he has darker skin. So would you consider yourself just consuming black people or darker skinned people?
Well, Dahmer and I both like to actually literally eat the flesh. It is good.
Okay.
Little barbecue sauce.
Did we have any other callers who had a question? Anybody that we missed? You had a hand up, question to get in from Ms. Tyler. Did we miss anyone? Just making sure. Last few seconds.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Oh, I heard two people.
Yeah.
But hang on one second. Did we have a female caller, or were there two males?
Yes, hello?
Okay, we'll get the female caller, and then we'll be right back. Female caller?
Thank you, Gus. Forgive me if this has already been asked, but what if your daughter is, first of all, does your daughter attend an all-white school?
Well, right now, the only people in her school are me and her.
So you homeschool?
But that has never been. Yes, we did this year. Prior to that, she was in a predominantly non-white school. A lot of immigrant families, so a lot of diversity.
Okay, so in the all-white area where you're in, what if a white child, one of her white playmates calls her the N-word? What would you do or tell her?
Ooh. I think she would be fine. She would read them, and she would come home and tell us, and I would probably go have a talk with the parents. But I don't think it would hurt her feelings because she knows what she is, and Leah, come here for a second. If a white child used the N-word against you, what would you do? She would punch them. And you'd probably get expelled, and I would be just fine with that. Right, exactly. That's hate speech. What would you want me to go talk to their parents or no? Yes. Okay. And would it make you feel bad about being black? It says a lot more. Why? Why would it make you more proud? I'm trying to move closer to her so you can pick up her voice. Why would it make you more proud? Are you proud to be black?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Why?
I don't really know. It's just like this little rush that I get.
Yeah.
Being black.
Yeah. What do you think is the difference between black and white people?
Ma'am, I'm not really interested in your Q&A session.
Oh, you're not.
The callers were asking questions.
Sorry.
We deviated again. Ma'am, did you have any other questions for Ms. Tyler?
We deviated again. We deviated
Yeah.
again. They said they wanted to talk to you, but we deviated. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No more questions?
Yeah, the last question I have is a little more nuanced. So what if an Asian or Hispanic child called your daughter the N-word? How would you react?
I would say that's unfortunate because people who have been discriminated against should know what that feels like and not want to do it to other people. But it's not really discrimination if they call her a name. And if she doesn't let that name get her down, she has won. If they actually begin to cause problems for her in limiting her ability to get an education or to feel safe, then we've got a different problem.
Okay, I just wanted to say, and this is my final comment, that words do hurt. That's why most ethnicities do not want certain words, such as Jewish people. They don't want certain epithets being thrown at them. But it seems like with black people, it just seems like we're supposed to just let the N-word just pass, but words actually do hurt. Thank you.
Right on. Hold on a second, Ms. Tyler, because we had other people that called in. Hang on a second, Ms. Tyler. Hang on a second.
I don't get to actually say anything.
Mr. Mhandisi, thank you for your
Someone
patience.
called
Did
my
you have
husband
a
the
question?
N-word in this town, and he knocked him out.
Oh, that's right.
And they got up. They didn't.
I forgot. I have got a mute button. I don't even have to listen to you if I don't feel like it. Mr. Mhandisi, did you have a question for Ms. Tyler?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My question. Yes, hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, sir. My question was concerning the last broadcast that I heard. I'm sorry, I heard something. But I was just saying the last broadcast that I heard, I believe you were saying that you were suffering from depression and you were taking certain chemicals to deal with the depression. My question is, do you have suicidal impulses often? Was my question heard?
We heard your question, Ms. Tyler. Did you hear the question?
No. What is the question? I couldn't hear anything.
I heard on one of the I heard on one of the broadcasts. I heard on one of the broadcasts that you were suffering from depression and you were taking chemicals for the depression. Maybe if I heard that correctly. My question is, do you often have suicidal impulses?
No. Never.
My second question is, if your husband was sober long enough and understood racism, white supremacy, do you think that he would practice counterviolence to you?
What? My husband practiced violence, counter-violence to me, something like that?
I believe you said your husband is chemically induced often. If he was able to stop the chemicals and clear his mind and understand how racism works, do you think he would practice counterviolence towards you?
Oh, okay. I don't know. I think you're saying that he's so drugged up that I really don't know what you're asking. Something about the drugs he's on and counter-violence toward me.
Yes, if he understood racism and he stopped using drugs, would he use counter-violence towards you?
Oh, you think he would be violent toward me if he wasn't on weed and liquor?
It was a question.
No, he's worse when he's had too much to drink. He is combative. But if I ignore him, then he calms down. But I can't argue with him when he gets like that. But he's never hit me.
My final question.
But the person who called him the N-word, that person got hit. Got laid out.
My final question is, if you chose to leave Earth and all white people stopped existing, do you think that white supremacy could still exist?
What?
If you chose to leave Earth, stop existing, if you can make that choice, if you chose to stop existing and all other white people stopped existing by next week, would white supremacy still exist?
Do I think that if who stopped existing, what would stop existing? If white people stopped existing?
If you stopped existing.
Yeah, me.
And if white people stopped existing, could white supremacy still exist by next week?
Could white supremacy what?
Can white supremacy still be on Earth? Can white supremacy still exist?
Gus, would white supremacy still exist if I cease to exist?
You and other white people, all other white people, cease to exist by next week. Would white supremacy still exist?
I don't know. I mean, that's fairly rhetorical. I don't know. I guess, maybe. I don't know, but we still have all these little devil mixed kids running around. The ones raised by white mothers. Right? I don't know.
Did that answer your question, sir?
I heard her response. Her response is fine.
Well said. The caller in Wisconsin, last four digits, 9516. Caller in Wisconsin, 9516. Did you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to ask. Do you have a life insurance policy on your husband? I don't know. It just sounds like
yes,
just giving him a slow death.
This is a great. Oh, I can see why you would ask that. We do not, because he is uninsurable. There would be no way I could afford anything.
Well, and then you do.
Sorry about that. My hand hit the mute button. I'm sorry. You can just start your question over, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Did you just call your daughter the devil child because she's a mix? Is that what you said? So you referring to mix, and your daughter is.
No, there is the Dr. Welsing theory that white women have mixed-race children in order to weaponize them against the black community. And so I was playing the Dr. Welsing point of view because I don't really get to answer things. Mm-hmm. So I'm just, at this point, just having fun with it.
As a non-white person, racism, white supremacy is not a joke. It's terrorism. Thank you, Gus.
I understand that you feel that way, but you guys keep laughing at me, so I'm going to have fun too.
Right. Were there any callers that we missed? Man, I cannot believe it. Out of all the years that we have been on, today. Did we have any callers that we missed? Who had a question that they wanted to get to Miss Tyler? Anybody that we missed who has a hand up?
Yeah, I do have another question. You said you lived in a town where it was like about 300 people, so, and they're majority white. Do you worry about your child and your husband's safety?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello? Oh, okay, because I keep getting muted. I do, but I believe truly that he was in more danger in a city than he is here. So
can you
have to balance. Because there are no police here. So he does not have to interact with police. And that has been a good existence for him. He would tell you that he is happier here by not having to worry about the police all the time.
But does he worry about vigilante justice?
The people that live in this town do not really have any power. They are people on disability. And I could explain to you all the power dynamics of the town, but it would be a mutable offense. But let me just say that, no, I don't think that he or she are in any danger. No, I better stop there.
No, you can go on.
I tend to believe, as I'm sure you would disagree, that the people who are the most racist often have the least power. And they are being manipulated by people who, I don't know. I don't fear, and he doesn't fear, because he says if anyone touched his child, that it would be worth going back to jail for the rest of his life. He literally means it when he says that if anybody so much as touched a hair on her head, he would kill them. He feels. And I think that people know that he's serious, and I think they would never do anything to her. Plus, in a town size, everyone sees everything. And so in a town like this, people tend to not do things that are something that they would be ashamed of. The people in this town are poor and disabled. They're sick. I mean, literally, they have cancer, and they have bad backs, and they have bad knees. And they probably use the N-word all the time. But I don't think they have the power to hurt her. And I don't think they really, I'm sure you guys would disagree, because you think that that's all white people think about, is how to destroy people that are not white. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes on in our lives. I have to think about what we're going to have for dinner. So I may be wrong, and it may be to my unending regret. But see, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about something happening to her. I don't think it'll happen. There's only so much I can do. I want her to stay safe. If I wanted to kill black people, this would be a pretty elaborate scheme. Come on, folks. I could go out and actually shoot black people. Why would I marry a crackhead and have his baby? And I mean, this is a pretty elaborate scheme.
Any other questions? Did we get everybody? Any other questions folks need to get in?
I don't have any more questions.
Quick question. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir, Mr. Steele.
Could this be one big ego trip, similar to the ego trip that you were experiencing when living in the quote-unquote drug neighborhood?
I think yes. There were times in my life when the ego trip, the rewards for me were greater than the punishments, and that was not always rooted in the in what would be best for black people or the black people I was interacting with. And I have learned that I need to stop doing those things. If my husband were to die tomorrow, there would be a lot of questions for me to figure out, because I would not marry another black man. I wouldn't marry anybody. But, I mean, again, the deed is done. We have a kid together. Now our job is to raise her. I don't know. What do you guys think I should do? Give her up for adoption to a black family only and say, if she stays with me, she'll become a Stepford child?
Quick question. Do you suppose that you partnered with, in your terms, a crackhead in order to be able to be with a black male that you could, in fact, dominate and you could control in a way that you couldn't control a well-to-do or middle-class black man?
So it is exhausting to have to do everything, to be the only person paying the bills, taking out the trash, cooking dinner, cleaning up. It is exhausting. The amount of responsibility that he doesn't do. You think I control him? He does whatever the hell he pleases. We barely even live together. He stays in the RV or the garage. We are together for our daughter. It is exhausting to have someone that you have to coddle this way. I never thought that this would be where we would be. Every decision that I make is to try to give her the best possible opportunity in life. And I believe that being with her father is critical.
Excuse me, quick question. If you could go through this process again, would you rather have partnered with a dog versus your current situation?
No. That is a very strange question. Did you think I would say yes?
Well, I think, it sounds like you're talking about your husband in the same way that people speak about their pets.
Really?
Anywho, did anybody else have a question? Did anybody else have a question they needed to get in?
To answer that. Let's always end.
Did anybody else have a question for Ms. Tyler? Did we miss anybody? Everyone is satisfied. I am super appreciative that we got through. Everyone didn't miss out. If we managed to miss your question with all of this, we gave ample time, encouraged folks. We spent I think this is the longest Q&A session we have ever had on the context of white supremacy. Did we miss anybody? I will assume folks are satisfied. Ms. Tyler, I'm going to check in January 2018, I'm going to check in about the phone and the plan. It's what I said, phone, same phone that you have, and the plan. I will check in January 2018 to see if you will follow through on your commitment for the phone. Thank you for hanging out and answering questions. Whoops.
Unmuted.
Thank you for hanging out and answering questions with us for the evening. I hope you.
I said we need it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, were we going to discuss a little bit on that plan? Because I usually give money to a young couple that I would have been in a better position to help had I not gone on this wild goose chase with my husband. He was a young man. They are committed to one another. They are working hard, but they just don't have much. And she doesn't have a relationship with their mother.
Okay.
And I really think a better use of my money would be to give it to them.
What I think is that you as a white person easily in 6 months. Easily. That is no problem. This is peanuts for you to help them probably to pick 3 or 4 different non-white young families that you would like to invest in and support and a phone. I don't think this is that much of a problem. At any rate, I will check in. I'm not interested. I really do not have any patience to hear a white person complain or gripe about their living situation or their quality of life. I mean, really. There is not a spa grand enough in the universe to give me the tolerance for that. So I will check in with you, and either you will do it or not. I will check in January 2018, and we will see what happens. I will have my expectations in proper accordance. Much obliged for you checking in for the broadcast. Krystl Tyler, the Wheat Money. Are you going to get me the link, as you said, within the next 24 hours or so? Because I did have listeners who wanted the book. Are you going to comply with that as well?
No, you know what? I think I'll back out on everything. Let's just back out on everything.
That's fine as well. Much obliged for your time, Ms. Tyler. Krystl Tyler, author of The Wheat Money, calling us live, she said, from the state of Washington. I'm going to hang up now. Thank you, Ms. Tyler. Much obliged. Dropping absolutely. Woo! Thank God. Spa date tomorrow. Man, I am so excited and looking forward. Context of White Supremacy. If it had not been for the callers, this broadcast would have been about 30 minutes. Once she started off with, I don't have a definition for racism, but I do not teach my child that, hey, even I am probably practicing racism because my definition of racism is not yours. There's nothing else to talk about. I had zero interest in hearing anything else she had to say about anything. And just to make sure that we are clear, as she said, she emailed me. Now, she can add all the other stuff that she wants. At the end of the day, she contacted me about coming back on the program. I would not have reached out to her to come back on the broadcast unless I could have thought of something really, really interesting or constructive to have her input for the program. But if it is someone, a race soldier that's just going to be really tacky and not serious, and they're not, providing constructive value, that I can say, oh yeah, I will learn about this or I will learn about that. No thanks. I'm not going to waste time to listen to you talk about nonsense. What I will say, one thing that I have noted, there tends to be a problem with questioning white people. I think it's great to have because I think if you go back, if you tuned in late to this broadcast, you probably didn't hear Gus ask any questions. All you really heard was me asking callers, because I would have been done. If it had not been callers, this would have been a 30-minute broadcast. She would have been gone, and, it would have just been us, talking about other things, or we could have wrapped this up a long time ago. But I think that, as Mr. Fuller says, whites, race soldiers, they are the most familiar mystery. Just being able to pay attention, ask questions to these type of racists, you can learn some things. Even the ones that are, practicing racism. And that's how I regard all of that. Practicing racism. The not being serious, the selective hearing problems, where even the one, it was great where she said she couldn't hear the question. And then when the caller got ready to move on to the next question, she said, whoa. You said, okay, I'll answer it. Wait a minute, I thought you... Man, all of that is practicing racism. That should not be confused or misinterpreted as, oh, that's just a dumb white person. Oh, that's just an ignorant white person. She doesn't know any better. Oh, that's just, some drugged out... No. That is a white person practicing racism. That's what it is. That's why I said just little things like that. You can learn quite a bit just paying attention and seeing the things that they do. Trashed her husband along the way. I think a lot of folks were commenting and making notes in terms of her response and just picking out some of the patterns, the abortions that she had. Fascinating. Folks who I think we should have got, it should not be anybody. There should not be one single person who did not get a chance to ask a question. So everybody who has a hand up should have spoken. We should have heard from everybody. So if people have comments, thoughts they would like to share based on what they heard, I do wish I had used my mute button very early in the program. I'm so unaccustomed. I had someone call in with the with the audacity to say that they were upset that I had muted someone on the program. I very rarely use my mute buttons on the program. Generally, the most common reason is for noise. If people have, a television in the background, or there's some sort of distortion in the line, that's the most common reason that I use my mute button. I generally allow people to say whatever they're going to say and just try to manage things. But man, Krystl Tyler, she deserved a mute button, maybe 5 mute buttons, but I wish I had been using it a little bit earlier in the program. Did folks have any commentary they wanted to get in based on what they've heard over the last 2.5 plus hours?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Awesome. This is Ken Steele, and I wanted to note how she pretended throughout the discussion, she pretended that she was concerned about respecting the rules or the parameters that were set forth earlier in the discussion, and she frequently kind of alluded to, I don't want to break this rule, or I don't want to sound like I'm dodging a question. And when I began to ask her about her abortion, she literally started humming. So she had no qualms about, being disrespectful or violating any sort of decorum that was set forth by the host. So, I think that she was doing a lot more lying and a lot more deception than what it would appear on its face to many victims.
Mr. Steele, right on. Great questions about the abortion. Other folks have commentary they wanted to get in.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
I really think that she thinks she's more refined than she is. She just really took it all as a big joke, which I know that's another tactic of the white supremacists. But in my opinion, she really thinks she's a lot more refined than what she is. I mean, she thinks she's a lot more refined than what she is.
That's interesting. I have to think about that a tad. People could not use speakerphone because I'm hearing my own voice. Maybe, or if you're listening to the program via computer, maybe just make sure you turn the volume down. I thought even lost my train of thought for a second. I was hearing myself in the background. I'll get it in a second. Other folks who dialed in who had commentary. Any of the other folks who dialed in with a hand up have commentary? I think if you have a hand up, your line should be open so that other folks have anything they wanted to make sure they got in.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I think that spot on in terms of the comparison to South Africa. I think they use some of the same tactics in terms of saying, I can't hear you. What'd you say? The line sounds choppy. The other thing is that I think that she got her narcissistic supply this evening. Thank you.
Sam Vaknin, live from Macedonia. I think that was 2012 in the archive. I mentioned Delectable Negro, Vincent Woodard, should maybe be in my top 10. Get psychic energy, draining psychic energy from black people. I thought about that listening to the archives. I thought about it today in her presentation and with her family. And I definitely wanted to make sure that I get on the record. Man, her husband and offspring, her daughter, wow. I feel for them. I might have mixed it before. I'm not native to Washington State. Seattle is in the western part of Washington. Pullman is in the eastern part. Most of my life, all of Washington has been like super west. So it's very bizarre for me now to for that to be normalized that, yes, most of Washington State is to the east of where I live. But Pullman is... oh my God, like there are no black people in where they are. And I think she said that they're not even in the actual, that's where Washington State is, where, who's the guy that plays for the Golden State Warriors? Klay Thompson, that's where he went to school, Washington State. But that's like way eastern part of Washington State, no black people. And she said that they're not even in Pullman, like proper. They're in some little outskirt rural part of the state. Like, oh man, I cannot even imagine like this part of the U.S., like Washington State, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, like that whole kind of northwest quadrant, super white, very low percentage of black people, and it was like a haven of attracting like white supremacist type organizations in those areas, particularly out in the rural parts. So I cannot even begin to imagine what it's like to live there. She said, I think for her daughter, she was in school, her class, there were like 4 people in the class total, including her daughter. I cannot imagine the toll that is taking on their mental health, and having to be in the house with her day in, day out, you know, indefinitely.
When she said that being called the N-word doesn't hurt, like, what?
I cringed also.
I couldn't believe.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that she would just go here and boldly, proclaim that. And she has a black child who, I mean, if her black child is going to punch somebody in response to being called the N-word, surely you could, admit that it creates some sort of stimulus that isn't positive within a black person upon hearing it and being called that. So, for her to say that was just astounding to me.
When she said that was the response, like her daughter would punch a white person who called her a nigger, like some of the times the person, because her daughter's only 11, some of the times the person calling you a nigger might be a 30-year-old, that, someone who is sizably larger than you, where that might not be the logical option or a feasible option at that point. And even if, let's say it is someone, a classmate, okay, so you're in a town with a population of 300, 298 of which are white, and you think a black child or a non-white child assaulting a white child who called them a nigger, how do you think that situation is going to play out in the school system? I know I've seen that situation work out before, and most of the time, the non-white person does not come out victorious. I think we've talked about that on this program before. Anybody else have commentary that they wanted to get in? I think she said that was even the response for child and daughter. Somebody calls me a nigger, whap-pow, hit them. Did any other commentary? Folks wanted to make sure they get in.
I'm sorry, I just had one last thing.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say a brilliant question. All the guests, all the callers had great questions. I think it's a brilliant question that Ken Steele asked, and also Big Victim from Birmingham. Those were very, very poignant questions that caught off guard. And I think that she wasn't expecting anything like that.
What did the victim in Alabama ask? It was so long ago. I forgot. I heard you retired firefighter. What did the victim in Alabama ask?
Oh, that's when he asked if she was on any.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That was a good question. That was a good question. Sorry, retired firefighter.
Greetings again. I would just say if you looked up the word aggravating, and sometimes in the dictionary they have pictures to help you with the meaning of the word, it probably will have the guest picture underneath the word aggravation. But yet at the same time, typical white female, not racist suspect, but racist, very cunning, very skilled in her craft. I cringe, and I didn't hear anybody on this program make the statement, but I cringe when non-white people say that people that behave like her or converse like her are not intelligent. She is very crafty at what she does. It almost seems natural in a sense. But that's white people. They're very calculated, and especially white females. She's not alone. As someone mentioned, the white female that was a member of the Move organization, they are very close and similar to their methods and tactics and strategies of practicing racism. Oh, me, I'm the victim, or I'm just a silly. I saw a picture of her. It looks like she's blonde. You know that metaphor about white women who are blondes, they're just dumb, that sort of thing. She does that with expert preciseness. And to me, it's like very aggravating, and I didn't want to dispel that attitude on the program because it may discourage another victim from enlightening themselves on this witness, and so I thought the most constructive thing is just to move on to the next person at that particular point in time, and I still do. Sometimes and I can see why, and I think you referenced it also. I can see why the husband has not even thought about declining himself from self-inducing himself on a daily level. I don't see how a drug is strong enough actually to be able to be on the same street that someone like her is, let alone talking about being under the same roof. I gotta imagine it's got to be very, very. That goes beyond the word aggravation. About what I'm thinking right now, but yeah, those are just some of my thoughts. And from that, it reminded me of her consistency, because I didn't get a chance to listen to the archives, although I know that I was participating in at least the last time she was on. But it certainly reminded me, it shocked me back into memory of her behavior, and but it's a good teaching point for any non-white person who really wants to study. She would be a very good example, and those are my thoughts at the time. Thank you.
Hey, real quick, caller from the 712 here. She got Dr. Frances Cress Wilson's name wrong. I believe she did that on purpose. Dr. Cress, peace be upon her. And she said that, she got tried to say Dr. Wilson said black genetics are supreme, and I do not ever remember Dr. Wilson using the word supreme. She used dominant. Thank you.
Good point.
So have you heard?
Yes, sir.
Did anybody else notice throughout the discussion, she kept on talking about her child and her husband in a manner that is very similar to how many suspected rapists talk about their pets. Did anybody pick up on that at all? Like, especially the husband. It sounded like he was some sort of like stubborn mule, or a white person who bought a chimpanzee and is, just having trouble, getting it to do all the tricks that it wanted to do. Did anybody pick up on this?
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Red from Ohio, and I did kind of pick up on that, and I felt that under normal situations, I'm sorry, not normal, but I feel like maybe if she was in a relationship or marriage with another white person, she would not have been so forthcoming as far as her husband's drug addiction or previous drug addiction, and then also his drinking problem. So I definitely thought that the question that Mr. Steele asked about, would you rather marry an animal, because, she was definitely comparing her husband to a beast. And the thing that I wanted to, I guess, get out there, because I know, I guess maybe I might have came across as being insensitive to sexual assault, which is actually something that I'm personally familiar with, unfortunately. I just felt like I've heard that a lot, and like with, racism is supposed to make black people stronger, but you will never hear a white woman compare, anything that would actually directly affect them, rape, what have you, making them stronger. So I just felt like, of course, she was practicing racism the whole time, and also her not even teaching her or saying anything to her child about the Charlena Lyles incident, the police shooting, when she said herself that she spoke with her child about current events, and that was a current event within the state. I knew about John Crawford, and I know people don't usually talk about Tyree King, which was another young black male who was shot in Columbus, Ohio, and then also, of course, Tamir Rice. But I just felt like, that's something that was simple that she could have did. So I don't feel like she really has any intentions of, raising or teaching her child anything of substance. Thank you.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I did want to comment on Mr. Steele's question, and he did point out to it being, I guess, an ego boost for her. And I just feel like, her, quite a few racist females and males, when they marry non-white people, and particularly black people, that they have an insatiable appetite to, just for consumption of non-white people. They feed it's just a personal human for them to consume off of, and their personal a human that they can practice racism against. And even with their children, their offspring, I believe they do that as well. So yeah, I believe, it was somewhat like a pet, and I definitely agree. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Let's see. Did we? Any other folks have comments? Anybody who had a hand up? Who?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Thanks so much for taking my call again. There was a lot of informative things. One quote unquote good things that when someone asked her, why would her husband still be married to a white supremacist? She never denied that she was a white supremacist. So I guess you don't have to put suspect anymore, because she did not deny that. So I guess as a white person, that would have been I don't know everything about being white. I'm not white, but usually that's the first thing they deny. I'm not racist. I'm white. I'm not a white supremacist. So that was good. And I did think it was of course fascinating, interesting, that all these white people, they never know what it means to be white, but they can say, well, black people did this, or black people did that, and black people did this, without any real problem. So that's fascinating to me, and that's something to keep in mind. And I know you don't want to hear white people cry and white girl tears or whatever, but sometimes, not maybe on the show, but just so your children can be aware of, this is what they sound like when they have a fake cry. and just kind of be aware of that. So when it happens in real life, they know not to, they can have an alternate strategy to deflect against those peers. Thank you.
I'll be heard.
Good point. Yes, sir. Thomas in New York.
Good evening, Gus. I thank you for the show. As you know, one of my favorite guests. And she proved why. She's gotten no more refined than the last time she was on the show. She's one of a kind. They come a dime a dozen, but that's pretty a guess. And the whole reason that anyone would stay for that duration of this show that long and take all those questions is to practice. Maybe she got a Week Money 2 coming out and she wants to do a book tour and she wants to be able to see what kind of things people will say, and so she know how to answer those questions. A few things that she said that stuck out. Well, to me personally, she sounds like the average white drug addict I see every night at the hospital. A meth head or a heroin addict, just something about the tinge in her voice. The summer color, that was that. I mean, you have your summer color now. Like I could just see them doing that. I mean, you're black. Your melanin's kicked in. The all black small towns. Yeah, just put us all in one area so they could just drop all kinds of drugs and guns in there on us, right? When she started singing, that was, to me, she's gonna send her kid back to school because, she's taking the money away from the school, and now they get the point. They even sent some non-white person to come speak to her, and and if she doesn't like what's gonna happen, she's gonna put her daughter, take her daughter out to school again. I mean, using your daughter as a pawn to invoke your white power. The Ken Still, the baby murderer, I love that. I still, after looking at her picture, and trust me, I've seen some star athletes with some ugly white women, but I mean, I just don't see no star athletes going after her. She ain't got no money. I mean, it's nothing she's bringing to the table unless, she just has some very unique sexual habits, which is probably the case. The last part when it was a lady caller, she had a very young voice, and she asked what would she do if her daughter was called a nigger, and she said, my daughter knows what she is. I started cracking up like, she's teaching her daughter, right, you're a nigger. And I'll mute my line. Thank you, Gus.
Real quick, I just wanted to concur with the previous caller. She mentioned herself, one of her reasons for wanting to be on the line with us was for what she described as verbal sparring. So, to spar is to practice fight. And I guess she views this as a safe place for her to go about practicing her abilities of dealing with and handling victims who are less confused about what it is that she's doing.
There are folks that we missed. Anybody that has a hand up that we missed, had a comment they wanted to make sure they got in? You get everybody? You got everybody? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. This is Victim in North Carolina. I had a question about women in general under the system of white supremacy, and it's also sort of related to Krystl Tyler's power as a white woman. Could I ask that?
Let's hear it.
Okay. I wanted to know if, given the fact that African, like black people, we can't really be men and women under the system because we can't really take care of ourselves, but it also seems like that's the same case for white women because they can get raped at will, and nothing will be done to the white males that do it to them. If the black males do it to them, then something will be done about it. But the white men, they can do that at will and get either no consequences or get 30 days. They can do the same thing to their children. Like, we know that pedophilia is rampant in their community, and there's nothing that these women can do about it to do something about these men. And I can't remember if the white women get these lower charges as well, but I know that, like, for rape and for pedophilia, it doesn't seem like the white women can do anything about really getting them some solid accountability. So my question is, does that make white females just white females as opposed to white women, given the fact that they can't protect themselves in that situation?
I know my opinion is no. I do not view white women as being powerless or subjugated in a similar manner where they are not able to function as women or able to protect themselves. I do know that particularly in earlier periods in the system of white supremacy, that was even worse in terms of white women. You could rape them. Other white men, I have to make sure I'm very specific, that other white men could be even more abusive to them. Sexual abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, all of the above, and even more. In the era that we're in right now, especially, I would say white women are substantially more empowered. And just looking at a lot of the data and statistics, white women are not struggling at all. They are able to take care of themselves. And I would say, even look at what's been happening at Fox News and what have you. That was not, Roger Ailes was not failed by white women who were struggling and lame and couldn't get everything done. It seems every day. I think, didn't the CEO at Uber just stepped down last week because some white woman, Susan Fowler, said that, she was being abused and mistreated, and exactly what I can't even do anything. I couldn't protect myself. And they fired about 20 people and the CEO stepped down. That's not what I subscribe to. I know everybody doesn't take that position. That is not the position that I take at all. White women, they are equal partners with racist man in the system of white supremacy. I have seen too much evidence that white women, they are more than capable of taking care of themselves. Certainly not in a physical sense, but they are so cunning, so manipulative, even with Miss Tyler, just being able to manipulate things, people. They are so deceptive. That's just been my experience with white women. They are not weakly timid at all. I think that is a narrative that is advanced in the system of white supremacy, and especially a lot with sexism. But Krystl Tyler or any of the other white women we've talked to, or just white women in general, I don't think the evidence bears that out, and that's just not the conclusion that I've come to. They are white man, white women.
Could I respond with a follow-up really quick, like a clarification?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, I certainly am not saying that they aren't just as culpable and just as much of participants in white supremacy. We know the school to prison pipeline and all of that, and they are the ones who are, telling these men to do a lot of things that they're doing and all of that stuff. I was just meaning just in the area of calling them women versus females, given that it seems that they can't get these men to get significant jail time for the sexual crimes that they perpetrate on them. So I was only meaning in that one, I guess, category, but not necessarily overall. I know that they are, a teen racist woman, racist man, and racist child, and women are definitely downplayed in white supremacy, so I didn't mean it in that sense.
Mm-hmm. All right, I appreciate the clarification. And I'm sure some other people have different perspectives on that. This is just my view. I could be wrong. I'm a victim and I'm still learning. But even in the sexual thing, I have seen a lot on a personal level in terms of my work history. I have seen a number of white women where the problem was not that they were weak and timid and that something could happen to them, a white person or anybody else could do something to them, and they had no recourse for addressing that issue. I've seen a lot of times where that was not the case, and they said something and somebody got fired, or, some major things happened as a result of the allegations of a white woman. And especially within the last 6 months publicly, it seems like there are a lot of white men, very powerful, wealthy white men, have been felled by white women who didn't even have as much money and power as they did. So that's just the position that I've taken. Could be an error. If in the next 5 minutes, we have done 3 hours and 20 minutes live. So in the next 5 minutes, if folks want to give their view on that or anything else Krystl Tyler related, feel free. If you want to respond to the caller's question about if white females, if they're mistreated enough, specifically in the area of sex, right? Because you were saying specifically that sometimes they're not able to get adequate criminal charges and what have you, punitive action taken if they are sexually abused by a white man, that sort of thing happens. Do people think that that's enough for them to be perhaps classified as females and not women in the system of white supremacy? Did folks want to respond to that question or Krystl Tyler related commentary?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I think something that is overlooked when the analysis of they don't get adequate justice is the situation that, a lot of them are lying. So, a lot of these stories and situations are made up, completely fabricated, and that's what may be what is making the appearance of a lack of justice in that area of activity with respect to crimes in that area. But against suspected race females. So also, I wanted to say, when I asked the question about abortion, notice that she didn't say one. If the answer was one, she would have just said one. I suspect that the number is somewhere between 3 and 10. So that's my take on it, and I'll mute my line. Thank you.
Any final comments? Folks wanted to be sure they got in response to the female caller's question in North Carolina, or final comment on Ms. Tyler? Assume folks might be tuckered out 3 hours. Well, we didn't have, thankfully, 3 hours of Ms. Tyler, but we had certainly.
In my living on this planet, I've experienced that women are much stronger than men, and women are mature much faster than men. And if that's the case, then we're dealing with a system that's really ran by white women. They are the ones in control. Women can always are in control. Men only like what women put out. If the song comes on and the women are dancing to it, the guys like that song. We follow the women, and they're the same. So they're following the lead of their mothers, or their sisters, or their aunts, their grandparents, their grandmothers who raised them. And that's what the system, pretty much has made. So I don't look at them as vulnerable or innocent or somehow in any way being a victim in any way, even to their own stuff that they go through in their own life with their men. They're far from victims at all. In fact, they reap the benefits from all of the mistreatment and stuff that their men have gone out and done. They get to sit at home and chill and get to mistreat black people all day. And that's what they focus on. That's what I think about as far as the white women. And I'm glad that lady did position that question earlier, comparing racism to rape, because they are both crimes of passion. In my opinion, they both have to do with someone having power over someone else and enjoying that power that they have. And I'm glad that she positioned that question that way. And I want to thank you.
Right on. Oh, I forgot. I think, if memory is correct, there was evidence presented with the argument about, maybe white women are mistreated in this specific area in terms of sex and criminal punishment and what have you. In terms of pedophilia, I think that argument was included there, and I know the data. This is in Tommy Curry's book on the man knot, and you can even think about this in recent memory with the situation at Penn State, Jerry Sandusky. Pedophilia is not exclusive in terms of targeting female children. There are a lot of male children who are victims of pedophilia, child rape. So that, in my view, that is not something that would be the fact that you have a lot of child rapists who are not prosecuted. That's not something that would be evidence of white women's lowly status, because it's a lot of black children that are victims of pedophilia. It's a lot of male children as well, white and non-white male children that are victims of pedophilia as well. I think that just speaks to the system of white supremacy promotes a lot of sexual violence. That's one of Krystl Tyler. It promotes a lot of that, so you're just not going to have a whole lot of enforcement. Really, I think for most crimes, you have kind of very lax enforcement for most crimes. It's not just sex. I think across the board you have pretty pitiful punishment, unless it's locking up niggers. That's about the only thing that they get really harsh on. Everything else, Enron, raping folks, whatever it is, we got to find some niggers to lock up for something. We have to make up some crimes to put them in jail. Her husband, that's what we get harsh for, putting her husband in jail. Other than that, whatever. We did 3 hours. I think we can wrap there. We'll be back. Workplace racism at minimum on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And Gil Scott Heron, sobriety would be best. Man, when I heard that, sobriety would be best. I think she said her husband had the DUI situation, and man, sobriety would be best. Gil Scott Heron, he'll be talking about substance abuse issues again this Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you have questions, commentary, guest suggestions, drop an email untiljustice@gmail.com. Someone had messaged me on my Facebook page yesterday trying to get in contact with me. I responded, and pretty immediately. I responded within an hour of them messaging me on Facebook. I responded in multiple different ways, in fact, and I didn't hear an update or hear back from them or what have you, but my email, again, untiljustice@gmail.com. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. Lots of great questions. Folks did a really good job with a challenging race soldier to converse with. I think folks did a great job of just being patient, streamlining your question, getting right to the point, and asking great questions. That's something that hopefully all of us are getting better at, just being able to ask quality questions to white people, not feeling the need to talk. Just ask questions. Thanks again, and we'll be back on Thursday. Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cow signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. No problem. You're a victim. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.